Hey, what's up, everybody? Mogi Monster here, and welcome to Why the Fascination, or WTF as I like to call it. First off, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody who's watching, everybody in chat, all my family and friends. Happy Thanksgiving. Um, I hope you guys had a wonderful day, good meal. Hope you're all full. um, hope you had a lot to be thankful for. I know I did. Um, yeah, it was a good day. Well, I was working on the truck all day, but talked to my dad. It was good to talk to him. He's excited that I'm coming back west, going back out west. I don't know how to say that. Usually you say back east and out west. I'm going out west again. Anyway. Um, so yeah, Stevie and I had a good dinner. Very untraditional Thanksgiving dinner. We went with ribeyes and fried some potatoes and green beans and tortillas, and it was a good meal. There was a lot of it. Um, but just didn't feel the same. Didn't feel like Thanksgiving, with the turkey and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and everything you guys had, except for one of you had a peanut butter and jelly. Saw that. So what's up to everybody in chat? Guys, I wanted to just say I wanted to get over to the spot where we filmed the lights the last time. I'm still in camp, but I am outside. It's a little bit noisy, not terrible. Um, we couldn't get over there because we're having issues with the truck. Today being the holiday, I took the time to take it apart. I got the power steering pump out, and I can order it tomorrow, and they'll deliver here or whatever I'm going to get. I don't know if I'm going to get the pump or the ring, the seals. I don't know. Anyway, um, so yeah, we didn't get a chance to go over there. This trip has been uneventful. Stevie's been hearing stuff at night out here um, in this field next to us. Uh, she thought she saw some impressions in the ground over by the fence. It's possible because it was weird. We heard some. It sounded like something got into the garbage earlier, but I didn't see anything. The garbage didn't look disturbed. It was weird because the noise was right outside the pop up. Because I stuck the flashlight out the window and there's nothing there. So what's up to everybody? Mr. Lee, 3PO, how's it going, man? Hey, Sugar Britches, Ida Bustamante, how are you? Uncle Bones, what's happening? Brown Dwarf, what's up, bro? Claude, good to see you. Rooted Expedition, what's up, man? How's it going, Zach? I haven't seen you in a while, man. Good to see you. The Bat Mom, how are you? Hey, Wit. Sandra Piper, how are you, hon? Nada, what's happening? Who else? Hey, Jen. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, all everybody in chat. You guys are like family, so I hope you guys had a great day. Daniel Lundy, how's it going? Hey, Judy. Flyby Stew, what's happening? Hopefully, I'm not too loud because I think it's quiet hour now. I'm sitting outside babbling. If I'm buffering, I apologize. I have a signal. It says 4G, but probably about 1 or 2 bars. Is it still buffering? Is it Lester Taylor? How's it going? Michael Haywood? What's up, Mike? Sasquatch Wizard, how's it going, man? Hey, Sean, what's up? Chasing the Truth, Sean G. you guys haven't checked out his channel, do so. He's on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights. He's with the Dark Waters Network. Check it out. He's got a good show. Oh, yeah. The only thing, it's funny, the only thing I got that was kind of traditional for dinner, and we didn't even touch it yet, was I bought a pecan pie. And ironically, Stevie's never had pecan pie, so that'll be interesting. And that's funny that I just read that after the fact. As he wakes up from his turkey coma, what's going on? Who forced that last piece of pie down me? Yeah, I'm looking forward to cutting into that pecan pie. Stevie, am I being loud? She's like, no, you're good. Hey, Danny, thanks, man. What else we got here? Flat Rock, great to see you. Hey, Nall Parkinson. What's up, Rex Hand? Wow, can't keep up. Tony, what's up? Crow Creek. Great to see you, man. Hope you had a good holiday. All right, if I missed anybody, I apologize. Listening to some weird ass noises out there. I know they're birds, but it's just weird. That and some car noise. Hopefully you guys can't hear the car noise. Let's see. So yeah, same old, same old. I'm gonna post the link in chat, and anybody wants to pop on, feel free. Catherine, how are you? Richie Evans. Thanksgiving was good, Richie. Thanks for asking. Finally got the damn power steering pump out. Mr. Lee, how old are you going to be on Saturday, Mogs? 54. I feel 64. No. Yeah, 54. I don't feel 54, honestly. My back feels jacked up, but as far as frame of mind goes, hell no. I don't want to grow up. Who else is in here? Oh yeah, so let me post this link in chat. All right, there we go. So the link's in chat. If you want to come on, just click on Bigfoot and on what's happening. Papa Craig. So the plan is tomorrow I'm going to order this, whatever I'm going to get. I'm going to see what they recommend. If they have a pump, we might just get a pump. Otherwise, I'm going to rebuild this one. And I'm not thrilled with that idea because if it leaks, then trying to do that as early as possible so we can actually salvage some of this trip and get out. And, we want to go investigate that one area where we saw the lights. I want to go down during the day and film a little bit, just take some pictures and video. And then hopefully get down there, because all they had to do was put a new pump in it. Everything, getting it apart was the hard part. Putting it back together is going to be easy. Yeah, because I want to salvage some of this. I feel bad. I told you guys I'd be down there and we couldn't do it. But it is what it is. We'll get over there and see what we see. I want to get down. I want to maybe stay down there at night. Not overnight, but I don't even know if there's anybody camping down there or anything, so we'll find out hopefully tomorrow after I get everything done. It's been a good trip, you know. It's besides the truck, because like from 7 in the morning till dark, I've been working on the damn thing 2 days, 3 days in a row. Oh, I don't know if you guys can hear that. Just to my right, out there's a field here, and then in the middle of that field there's a pond, and in the trees around the pond you get these birds roosting, and it just sounds weird. I'm not used to hearing birds at night. I think there's some frogs out there too. Huh, that's cool. Um, so yeah, let me go back down to Claude.
What's up?
Can you hear me? How are you, man?
Doug? Yeah, I'm doing good. Y'all
Awesome.
get to see the lazy me tonight.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Must be a delay.
Thanksgiving. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think there's a delay, so that's why I'm just waiting.
Yeah,
I'll say something and then wait.
delay. Hang on. I may still be on though.
I hear you.
Okay.
So how was your
You were
Thanksgiving?
about,
How was your
you were
Thanksgiving?
complaining about being huh? See, here we go again.
I know.
This sucks.
Every
I
time we
got
do
one bar
this,
of service thing.
that's what I got is one bar also. And he dropped off. Damn. Nada, I don't know. I have my doubts. Bigger and better things. Oh well. Butterfly, how are you? Great to see you. Um, Claude, I'm sorry about that, dude. I don't know. Every time you come on, we never seem to be able to talk. You are very right, sir. Mogian are a race of Native American Arizonan beings. Yeah, they actually they're prehistoric uh, um, Native Americans that lived in that area on the rim. Fun fact. All right, let me try this again. Okay, nobody's backstage. Well, thanks for trying, Claude. Dimitri, welcome. Hello from the Kremlin. Oh, I'm honored. Minya Zavut Mogs. I know you guys just were like, what? Dimitri knows what I said. uh, So yeah, let me do this again. I'll repost the link in chat. All right. Post comment. All right, there we go. Again, Claude, I apologize, dude. I don't think you've ever gotten on here without where we could actually talk. It's probably like the fourth time you've tried. I'll just have to stop by and on my way out, back out west, and come meet up with you wherever you are in Louisiana. Gene Hudson, how are you? Never mind. I am so sorry to hear that, hon. Wow. Prayers. Prayers to you and your family. Wow. Emma, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving. Catherine Lindquist, Minnesota. It's too friggin' cold in Minnesota. Pammy, happy Thanksgiving. Sorry, I meant to call you. And I called Daddy today. But yeah, happy Thanksgiving, Pammy. Hope you had a good day. It's my sister. A moth just crawled over the camera. Is that what you were trying to say, Claude? You were complaining about being 54. Give it another 20 years like me before you do. Yeah, no, dude, like I said, I don't feel 54, you know. Sure my back hurts and shit, but you know, mentally I feel 34. Who else is here? Hey, Brandy. How's things up in Jersey? John Hall, how's it going? Yeah, these birds are active out here. At least they think they're birds. I don't know. Check backstage. So, guys, I am posting the link in chat. If you've never been on before and you would like to come on, just click on the link and follow the directions. Put your name in. But if you do come on, make sure that you have everything closed, like YouTube is closed, so we don't get a echo. It's pretty simple. I'd love to see some new faces come on. I'm just going to keep posting it. Excuse me. In Russia, the turkey eats you. That's funny. Tracy Benna, hello. Just trying to see who else is in here. And so anything going on with you guys? I just dropped my letter. Flat Rock, you're another one I want to come see up in Alabama. Whenever I get out of here, before on my way out, there's a couple people I want to stop and see, which I probably, hopefully I'll have the time. Because coming out here, I was in a hurry. I wanted to stop and see Tex and other people, and just the only person I did stop and see was Seven Pearls. Spent the night at her house, which was a blessing. But going back, I don't think I'm not in that much of a hurry, so hopefully I'll be able to stop and see some people. Hang in there, Tracy. Prayers to you. The holiday season always does that. I didn't know I'd be spending originally, no, like I'd be spending Thanksgiving camping. Never did that before. It's weird being away, because like today, everybody in Arizona, like my dad and my nephew and my sister, and they all went down to my other sister's house down in Phoenix or Queen Creek, actually. It's East Valley. So I kind of miss that, but hopefully I'll be there for Christmas. Yeah, hopefully I'll be there for Christmas. So anybody wants to pop on, again, I'm just going to keep posting link in chat. You want to come on and tell me how your day was, what you did today? Tell everybody what you did today. And I'm sorry if it's making noise. I think it happens every time I touch the screen. Because I heard it on the replay from Tuesday's show, and I was like, what the hell is that? And then Stevie said it was every time I touch the screen, it would make that weird noise. Mm-hmm. All right. Where the hell's the bottom of this? Oh, there it is. Who else is here that hasn't been on or has been on but hasn't been on in a while? In other words, who can I put on the spot? Sorry. Because I can't sit here and babble for that long. Shit, I've only been here 22 minutes and I don't know what to say. Papa, you can pop on if you want. Oh, I didn't even notice that you would put that, Claude. Yeah, I've got that pecan pie on my mind. Hey, Barb Sandy, how are you? Yeah, it is. It is. It's difficult. I was in Arizona for 10, 11 years, and which amazes me. I don't know where that time went, but I needed a break, so I here I am. But everything goes in circles, so I'll end up where I belong. Hey, Lisa Ray, thank you very much. Hope your family had a great holiday too. Fat chance there, Sean. Mr. Lee, get on and give a turkey holiday cheer. One of these days we'll drag his ass on somehow. Gene, we're camping Central Florida, South Central, somewhere around there. It is the site of where we filmed the 168. It's pretty, and it's fucking mosquitoes are brutal. I just put spray on before I sat down, and I'm still getting bit. John, you want to stop in? Feel free. I don't know why I keep saying feel free. Where is Murray? Good question. Murray's usually lurking around here somewhere. Not that he's a lurker, but remnants of pyramids in the Grand Canyon. I know they found Egyptian stuff supposedly in caves, but I never heard anything about pyramids. Like, they found I don't know if they found sarcophagus or just jewelry or gold or whatever, but supposedly. Barb, when did Stevie get her prosthetics? Was that about a week? Monday or Tuesday, hopefully. I hope they don't just give them to her and be like, here you go. Good luck. Because she would put them on right there and run away. Hey, Mark Dodman, how are you? Tight lines to you as well. Yeah, that blew me away when she stood up and it caught the therapist off guard too. She just starts walking. Pecan pie? Never heard of pecan pie. Huh? That's pumpkin? Pecan? Pumpkin? Stevie's talking to me from inside the trailer. I would. Oh. Jean Paul, how are you? Jen, I'm proud of you. No bar fights this Thanksgiving. So what, you don't like the way I say pecan? Pecan? Pecan. That would be better, right? Pecan. Pecan. Yeah. I'm from Jersey. What do you want? You know? South of 49. Hi, all. Happy Thanksgiving to all you south of 49. I don't know what south of 49 is. I just read that twice. I was like, what? Oh, a pecan is what you take with you camping or fishing, so you can go at Clud. John Hall says, I'm not overly good on the computer at Mogs. I can chat, but coming on might be stretching it for me. No, I feel you. Somebody's backstage. There he is. Hey, Papa.
Hey.
Hope I didn't leave you waiting back there too long.
No, I'm just waking up from my coma though anyway, so.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, how are you guys doing there all alone? I can't see the comments. I turned you off, so we'll have to wait for Mugs to come back. What do you think he did? Wasn't the red button. Here he comes. Hi.
Hey, me again.
It wasn't the red button anyway.
No. No, I went to swipe it and backed me right out of the studio.
Yeah, those interactive screens nowadays are pretty cool, but my fingers didn't keep up with them.
Right. So, did you guys have a good day?
I had a good day. I went to my mom's and ate dinner and talked with her and looked at lots of pictures. And it's kind of hard to do all that because she's 90 and still doing good.
Awesome.
And then I came back here with Marla and my stepdaughter and their family and ate again.
No wonder you went into a coma.
Right. So, yeah, I always promise to stop eating when it starts hurting, but that never happens.
Yeah, somehow you fight past the pain.
Right. It's a duty.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it was very untraditional Thanksgiving. We went shopping yesterday. And it was like, well, what are we gonna do? Because we're camping, so can't cook a turkey. So
Right.
we went with cow.
I don't know if you hadn't been there through so much for so long now, I would say I'd trade you places. I mean, I would just for the physical part of it, because that would be fun to camp in Florida for a night. I think it's no fun to camp here. We got just.
I'm in a short sleeve shirt tonight. The other night I was in, I was all bundled up. It just, this cold front came through. Now it's not bad out. Mosquitoes are a little brutal still.
We're anywhere from 21 to 41 at night, and anything from raining sideways to snowing sideways. And I guess we got another one of them Pineapple Express storms headed our way. That's where a big stream of clouds coming up from Hawaii races over us.
Is that where the storm comes from, the South Pacific?
Yeah. Some of them will come all the way from Japan or clear down in the South Pacific. Yeah, this one, last one that drowned British Columbia and Seattle and Bellingham, it gave us a big, hefty bunch of rain, and then supposed to be another one on the way for midweek or something, but never can quite tell anymore.
Yeah, it's weather. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, they used to put up a few. Yeah, they used to put up a few weather maps when I first started fishing because they didn't have all these computers. And then as the computers came out, well, they'd put up a few weather maps and throw darts at them, and they would send you a fax with a picture of the weather map, and you could figure it out your dang self.
Yeah.
And then they came out with the computers, and I guess they just drew random numbers out of a hat on whose program to go with. Because once they started using the computers, I don't remember them getting it right out at sea for a long, long time. I'm glad we just kept getting the weather map, and we'll go, well, this sure doesn't look like it's going to do what they say it's going to do.
Yeah, I'm always looking at radar.
Yeah.
Watching radar. This way I know. It's weird because it started raining here today and I couldn't find it on radar. I'm like, why is it raining? There's nothing on radar.
Yeah. That is weird. Well, we will get the rain that on radar that says it's pouring, but the wind's actually blowing it back up into the cloud and turning it into hail or something. And then you get it.
You get that virga where it doesn't hit the ground.
Right. Lots of that. Look, we do that a lot here with the mountains and stuff. Got the updrafts all the time.
So,
my.
Crow Creek says, Mogs, put some sage in tin foil, dampen with water, put by fire, poke vent holes, keep skeeters away. I didn't know that. I don't have any sage. I have a smudge bundle and mosquito coils. Does that help?
Yes.
Joe Parker, how's it going? Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't understand it. I just sprayed before I sat down. Okay, half an hour ago. 5 minutes before I went on, I sprayed and covered my arms, put the shit on, and I'm still getting bit.
What'd you put on?
Deep Woods Off.
Gosh, that should have worked.
Yeah, and they're still getting me.
They ripped you off, Mogs.
I'm telling you. Fuck you at the drive-thru.
Oh.
Somebody.
I'm still in my turkey coma.
Yeah, actually, I don't miss that actually today. that full bloated feeling and all the tryptophan from the turkey, and I was actually awake after dinner.
Yeah, I'd like to say it hurts so good, but it doesn't. It just hurts.
Right? Duke, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you.
I bet he's got some nice snow up there.
Probably. Nada says, camp in Idaho where they eat you alive.
They will too, yeah. Yeah, up here.
We're basically in a swamp here. I mean,
are they little tiny or great big ones or medium?
Well, they're not the big ones, but they're not tiny. They're kind of bigger than what I'm used to. Like Arizona has these tiny little mosquitoes.
Yeah, up in our higher mountains, we get the tiny little mosquitoes, but you can see the cloud of them. They're so thick.
Yeah.
They will kill you. And then in Alaska, you get them great big ones that we stand flat-footed and do naughty things to a turkey, and you can see clouds of them. And they get them whole caribou herds stampeding. I guess ours will get the elk to cover themselves with mud.
I'm just reading chat real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Somebody in there say something so we can talk about it.
Way. Crow Creek says Stevie B, they are awful here, but finally getting too cold for him. Blue-eyed Northern, how are you, Pat? So you've been getting out, or what have you been up to? Papa?
Oh, what have I been up to? This.
Yeah.
Just what I said. I go out pheasant hunting 3 times a week with my little Rosie doggy, but there aren't any pheasants left, so Papa and Rosie just go for a hunt. I mean, there's some around, but I can't run them down, and that's mostly what they do is run away. And if Rosie runs after, yeah, if
kind of
Rosie's a chocolate lab, so she's not a pointer, so she won't freeze them.
Yeah,
she'll just go catch them.
I mean, is she trained for hunting?
She's being trained. I wish we had some birds to. Well, I'm going to go out after chuckers in a little bit here.
Okay.
As soon as I get in shape, because the hills are straight up and down. And last time I fell down one of those, I busted myself all up. And see, they live in places like Hell's Canyon, and it's not a good thing for old guys to fall in there. So I'll have to hunt the lesser steep stuff. And
Yeah, when I was younger, my dad and I were members of a hunting club, and we had a lease that was like 700 acres, but we stocked our own pheasant and chucker and something else.
Hungarian partridges, quail, Hungarian partridges.
There were quail. Yeah, now that you mention it. And we had a callback pen too for the quail.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. But yeah, we used to. I loved bird hunting. I love watching a dog work. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun to teach them to do that too. And
Michael says about 3 a.m. that chocolate pie is going to make you jump out of bed, Lester. The pecan pie is calling my name.
Oh yeah. I tried the apple. I still got to go through the strawberry rhubarb and the sweet potato pie.
Sean says, crazy, I can feel my phantom toes on the floor sometimes. That was weird because...
Oh, yeah.
The other day, Stevie, she's sitting there and she goes, I'm wiggling my toes. I was like, what? And then you look at the muscles in her leg and in the bottom of her called stump, they're moving, and she could feel like she's wiggling her toes.
Yeah.
That was why. I mean, it didn't hurt her. It wasn't phantom pain. It was just like Sean just said. It felt like his, he could feel his toes touching the ground. That's weird. It's interesting weird, not bizarre weird.
Let's see. I have a finger on there that's crooked.
Mm-hmm.
They sewed that back on. Smashed that off in 78 or something, 77, and I was just lucky enough that the best hand surgeon in the world happened to be visiting Portland from New York, and he took a look at it. The other guy said, nope. I said, wait a minute, that's my hand you're saying nope to. And I don't know whether it was better to keep it or not because it was such a wreck for so many years.
Claude just says you could smear chicken shit on yourself for the mosquitoes. It's good for chapped lips. It doesn't cure chapped lips, but it'll keep you from licking them. Oh, shit.
Yeah, as long as you covered yourself with something they couldn't bite through.
Huh. Who else? It was another thing was weird when we're going back. I'm just going back to the prosthetic. When Stevie first put on her leg, the legs, the prosthetics for the fitting, and she stood up, she said it felt like she rolled her ankle. That's the pain she was feeling in the side of her, when it was sitting in the prosthetic. She said it felt like I rolled my ankle.
Strange. Yeah. Those nerves and their phantom stuff is weird. You know what it is? Because I studied this in college. That's got to be a certain frequency of electromagnetic energy traveling up that nerve to your brain. Just tiny little variations tell you, what sensations you're feeling. So she pushed that, tripped that trigger when she put the leg on or does stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And, because, I mean, they're not the same nerve endings, but it's it's interesting, how it does give you that phantom pain sensation that you get, or the feeling like that it's still there. It's fascinating. I'm sure there's studies done on it. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, they're probably way ahead of where I ever knew.
And another cool thing is we found a channel. The girl she's an amputee. She lost one foot, and she's called the channel's called Footless Joe, and she goes through everything about the prosthetics and her nub and everything, phantom pain. She covers, yeah. So it was cool that Stevie found that,
Yeah.
And it's good that the girl's putting it out there, and because it can be an odd, uncomfortable subject for some, that's why, it's we were sitting outside of a hotel room, right outside her door, and she's sitting there in the chair, and you watch people approach, and when they look up and they see her, some just walk by, others go way around.
Uh-huh.
That's weird.
I think they might not want to scare her, but I have no idea. Maybe they're scared, but
it's just human behavior was bizarre. In that situation, some are like, "Oh, you okay?" Hey, twice people have come up. You need help? She's like, "No, I'm fine." But yeah, some people just avoid. I mean, like practically cross the street, and they're on the damn sidewalk. Digger, what's up, man? Sure. Prairie Fire, how are you? But yeah, she's anxious to get on her new feet, and I don't blame her. And my thinking was, it's going to take her a while to get used to it. Like, I mean, a long time to get used to it. But watching her stand up on the first try, I was like, oh shit, she'll be fine.
Next year she'll be on those little bouncy spring-loaded running feet.
Oh, the blades.
Yeah, she'll be ripping the place up. Or she'll be on some inline cross-country skates or something.
Yeah, she's anxious to, she wants to get back out in the woods and do some hiking and stuff, and she'll do it too. I know that.
Yeah.
Let me I gotta repost this link in chat.
Oh yeah.
I forget about it.
Maybe Mr. Lee will come on after all.
Keep trying. All right, guys, I posted the link in chat. Anybody wants to use it, just click on, hang out on this Thanksgiving Eve, or night, I should say. Eve. Thanksgiving night. Jeez. I'm exhausted. I've been working on that truck for days, and finally, I had to wait half the day just for a socket. I had to go borrow one. The other day, yesterday we went to the store. I had to buy an 18 millimeter socket. Then I had to borrow a 14 millimeter socket. Finally got the thing out. Now I'm like, what do I do with it?
I really don't miss being a shade tree mechanic.
It's been so long since I've done it. I've been working on side by sides, fixing those things. But it's a little different, you know, because those are brand new that, you know, people roll over and, you know, you change out roll cages and suspensions and, you know, A-arms and stuff. But they're brand new. They're not rusted together like this. So it, you know, getting these nuts and bolts off was like, sure.
Right. If you don't have any penetrating oil in time,
No, I have penetrating oil, but it wasn't penetrating.
it wasn't doing it. Yeah.
No, WD-40, I sprayed the shit out of everything, and even the last bolt that gave me a hard time, it started, you know, started out a little bit and then it got tight again. So I backed it off, sprayed, and kept trying to work it that way, but I finally just had to muscle that thing out. You know, it was just, it never really broke. It just was tight the whole way out. I don't know if it was cross-threaded. I'll have to check that before I put it back in. Sharon Guy, how are you? Phil, what's going on? All right, who we got back here?
Is Jack McClellan in the back?
Right now I am bringing him up. Jack,
how's it going?
How you doing?
I'm alright. About you?
Good. Where you coming from?
North Florida. You probably know my
Okay.
buddy Connor. Connor Flynn from Bigfoot Anonymous
Yeah.
asked you along.
Oh,
He sends everybody my way.
You're not the first person to say that.
I believe it.
Yeah, he's talked about you before on our adventures, so
It was
it's nice
okay.
to finally put a face to the name.
Absolutely.
And Papa Craig, I was telling Connor, we went hiking on we attempted to go hiking on a newly opened trail in Chattahoochee here in North Florida. And we came across an individual named Bob Farley. He is a local botanist, and you and him favor each other a great deal.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, like when I first saw the stream, I was like, well, shit, there's Bob. But the only difference is you. I think your glasses are a bit different. I'm actually going back, and I have a couple shots of him that I took. But you and him look borderline identical. It's kind of eerie, actually.
Ah,
Yeah, same. It's just kind of weird, but hey, it's weird how that works.
Miss
for-
Dill, how are you? I gotta put this up.
okay.
Penetrating oil. What kind of channel is this?
Oh, not that kind of penetrating oil. This wouldn't be any damn fun at all.
Nice. Well, what have you guys been doing for Thanksgiving? Anything special? Any hikes? Any adventures?
Yeah, I'm camping down here in the swamps of Florida.
All right, nice.
That's right. You are in the swamp.
Where right now are you in Florida?
It's Central Florida,
Okay.
South Central. I'm not at liberty to divulge the location.
I got you.
You
NDAs.
know, it's a public place, but you know.
Gotcha. Well, are you? I mean, can you disclose? Like, is it? Are you searching for any kind of activity of some kind, or is it for something else entirely?
Well, I was here in March with when they filmed the 168 over on Bigfoot Odyssey's channel.
Yeah.
So I was here for that in March. It's the same location.
Nice.
We had seen some lights when we were here in March, and we were going to go check those out, but we just haven't had a chance to get over there because of the vehicle is down right now until tomorrow, and then we'll try to get out. But we've been listening, because there were we heard stuff out here in March, and So Stevie sits out here, till early in the morning. I'm snoring inside while she's listening, and like she was recording the other night, and she heard something outside the tent, the pop up, and all you hear on the recording is Russell. Russ. I didn't budge. I didn't wake up.
Nice.
She was
Seeing
trying to
active
wake up
sleeper could
because
be
she
a
heard
bit.
something outside.
Well, I saw a little bit of the 168, or is it 168 or is it 168? Which is it? Or is it kind of?
I don't know, 168 hours, but it's 168, and as far as the title goes, it's 168.
Right. Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. It was very informative. Lots of good information. I enjoyed it a lot. I did my own little short Bigfoot doc about a year ago, actually, for one of my university classes, and everyone wants me to expand upon it, but I just haven't had the time. But I'm working towards it along with Connor. We have a lot we could do with it, and we try to make it very visual as well. Or at least that's what I try to do.
Hold on.
Mama Craig.
Hey, Nana.
Yep, that was Nana. Moke says hi, Nana. You can't hear him now because I got the headphones on.
Barry Browning, how's it going, buddy? So, oh wow, Old Bear, what's up, Ralph? Good to see you.
All right. Hey, if it'll help you any feel better about where you're doing mechanicing at, Mugs, I used to do a lot of it at sea. I just got reminded of a really horrible story. We were rock fishing in January off of Yakutat in a place called the Fairweather Grounds. I don't know if they call them the Fairweathers because you can see the Mount Fairweather from there, or because you don't go out there unless it's fair weather. But both are true. So anyway, it started blowing 50, 60, and the waves got huge. How does that go with that? 80, 90, 100 feet tall. There was nothing we could do. But anyway, the shaft on our 70-foot steel fishing boat parted. It came apart at the coupling down in the fish hold, and that was half full of rockfish. So to move all the rockfish around, unbolt the shaft alley bolts to the plate above the shaft alley, and there it was, two pieces apart. So we had to open that all up and figure out how to pull the part of the shaft that was connected to the engine and pull the wheel back into that shaft and put the keyway back in. And you couldn't and how to hold it still because the wheel was still turning every time that we went up and down on these 30-foot waves. And what we had to do was sounds real simple, but it took 18 hours. We opened up all the shaft alley, made a bracket that we could hook the come along to, wrapped a chain around the tail shaft where the propeller was hooked up, put giant pipe wrenches on the shaft each direction so that it would not turn. We got it locked down so it wouldn't turn to the left, and then we had to get it locked down so it wouldn't turn to the right. And then we wrapped chain around the pipe. And it took us a while to think of this. We wrapped chain around the shaft like the well drillers do. Chain will grip. Well, we were thinking rope, and it didn't work at all. But finally goes, oh yeah, chain. And so we wrapped the chain around there, jacked the whole thing together, and put the keyway in. And the whole time all that was happening, one of us had to lay over the top of the hatch cover to keep the waves from going down and filling the boat full of water, and listen for, hey, I need this wrench, I need that wrench, do we have this, and
how did you reconnect it though? Was it broken, or did you weld it, or?
Okay, the coupler is a like when you're sticking PVC pipe together, that kind of coupler.
Sure.
Okay, so this was a big metal one, and it was still connected to the front end of the boat, right, to the engine and a long shaft to that. And then the tail shaft came out of that coupler. So we had to to pull it, we come along it back in with a piece of chain.
I got you.
And we had to make the bracket that the come along hooked to because there was nothing to hook to. And it was just a blast. It was.
Huh.
And I don't know how many 100 miles we got blown during that night and day, but that's just one of the little things we got to do.
So you have a history on the water, it sounds like?
Yeah, I was a commercial fisherman in the Gulf of Alaska for 15 years for halibut and black cod.
How are you catching the halibut?
Long line.
Line.
You know what a trot line is, right? And a long line, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's just like a giant trot line for those who don't know about long line. You could look it up on Alaska long line fishing. Google it on YouTube or something. And look at what the big boats were doing, and that's just what we did. The little guys had a more relaxed operation.
You ever seen anything really just completely off the wall while out at sea?
Yeah.
Just unexplainable.
I cannot explain to you how brutal it was. And scary and all of that, Total adrenaline junkie's job right there. I thought it was my dream job when I was 10, and it was. Some of it turned out to be. I could stay up all night and play with the boys. I got to play with knives. I got to cuss all I wanted. I didn't have to take naps or baths. Perfect. That's about the only things I hated about that job, really, though. Stay up for 2 days and play with the boys.
So it wasn't a glamour job that shows like Deadliest Catch make crap like that out to be?
Well, you see little smidgens of them doing that. You see them doing that a little tiny bit, right? For an hour.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun for an hour, and you're not even seeing that crew do that. But if you see those guys stand out there getting beat like that for 30 hours, that's what they're really doing out there. Now, we were talking about fishing in the Gulf of Alaska.
Why can't we talk about the 168? I was there.
You were there.
Yeah,
and so you come back to check whether those lights you were gawking at that made me laugh so hard when I saw you looking at them lights, you were going, what is that?
Yeah.
That was precious. I was rolling on the floor when you did that. Because I've seen them lights before, and they'll make you do that. They'll make you do that. What the hell is that?
I think that's the universal reaction to anything unusual. What the hell is that?
What?
Actually, I heard a really strange sound earlier. I was visiting my family for Thanksgiving, and we live pretty far out in the sticks in North Florida, and I repeatedly heard lots of snapping sounds in the woods, fairly close. I wasn't sure if I know we do have several animals that come through there, like packs of coyotes and whatnot, but it was very loud, very, very loud. My girlfriend was even caught her attention. She was pretty observant. She's like, what the hell was that? And I was like, I do not know, but it was like a consistent snap, 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 like that. I mean, it sounded like thicker limbs too, not small ones either, like thick. It was pretty cool. I love encounters like that. It's fun because at least I'm at a seemingly a safe distance when that happened. So,
Jack, do you have a channel?
yeah, it's called Altered Cortex Design. I have a few things on there that I've made public. One of our latest short films that I actually shot with Connor. It's unlinked because we still send it around to festivals and whatnot. And, they don't like things that are public, but
Sure.
it's a short horror we did, and I have my documentary I did about a family. I don't know if you've maybe heard of them, the Bridges family. They live in Flat Creek. They were on Finding Bigfoot a few times and have been on other research broadcasts and whatnot. And I did a short doc about them and all that kind of stuff.
Where are
Fun
they
stuff.
located?
Right outside of Chattahoochee, here in North Florida. It's an area called Flat Creek, and they have a beautiful large property, absolutely stunning area, and for the better part of, I'd say, 10 to 15 years now, they've basically said that they thought they were Sasquatch, and then from there they have gradually gone on to believe that it's something else, possibly something more dangerous too. But they were very kind and gracious enough to let me film out there, which was super kind of them because they've kind of distanced themselves from a lot of organizations in the recent years. So it was really awesome. I've known them for a long time. They're close family friends. They're really, really kind people. They've always been nice to me. But it was fun to just go out there and experience things because Miss Carolyn, she's pretty sincere about everything. At least she has been to me, and she actually wants Connor and I to come out again. Hopefully, we can do it pretty soon. She wants us to stay a night or two and try to record everything. We got lots of gear to set up out there because she said that activity has been increasing a lot lately to a violent degree. And I think that'd be pretty awesome to, get out there and witness it. But I'm also like, God, I don't want to get hurt or have my gear get destroyed. But it's really, really exciting. And what Miss Carolyn had to say about it, her and her husband, it's pretty intriguing. It's far more than just, we hear sounds at night. They've had these creatures come up and try to enter their home. They've had their most popular story is all of the handprints all over their windows. It's pretty freaky. And I did a little short doc about it. I had a lot of fun. I did it by myself as a challenge to my peers and my professor because they wanted me to do a doc on something else that I had zero interest in, and I asked if I could do this. And luckily for me, my teacher basically challenged me, saying, "Yeah, you can do it, but I doubt you can." And then I did it, and now everyone at FSU calls me the Bigfoot kid. But it is what it is, and it made people ask questions. So that's at the end of the day, that was the whole point. So, but it's pretty cool if you want to check it out. It's there. It's called Bridges, Disturbances in Flat Creek. It's only like it's like 6.5 minutes, I think. I have more, but I don't have enough B-roll to accompany the A-roll. But it's pretty fun, and like I said, we want to go back out there and. I'm interested. I mean, it's fun. It's a lot of fun because we're telling a good story. It's like telling a story in a sense, but it's a real life experience, and these people go through quite a bit. So,
excuse me for 1 second.
Oh, you're good, man.
I gotta grab something.
Yeah. Do you, Jack? Do you think those? So you think Bigfoot encounters in general down that way are getting more and more often, more common?
I think it's just people are talking about it more. And I think people are starting to become more comfortable to talk about it. And I think that's a good thing. I know that there are still people out there who, try to kind of put it down as, just lunacy and craziness. But, when enough people start talking about it, I mean, that kind of has to make you wonder, you know. I had I had an encounter with what some and myself believe is some form of dogman a few years ago, not far from the Bridges property, and you know, the more people I've talked to about it, the more people who agree with me. Yeah, you definitely saw something off the wall, and it's just, I think people are just coming around to being more comfortable to talk about it, whether whether it is something that actually happened or it's something completely unexplainable. I just think the fact that there is a platform for people to reach and it's easy to reach nowadays, it's a healthier environment to talk about it. And I think that's a good thing. And that's why, like, I had a lot of fun making the doc, because it kind of spread it to people who would normally kind of just, laugh at it, how silly of you. But, and not to say there weren't a few people in my class who didn't do that. There definitely were. But I also kind of look at it and go, well, my doc was 10 million times more interesting than yours. So, especially what my professor originally wanted me to do, one about like a homeless guy in Tallahassee. And I'm like, that's great. And I hate that for him. But, I don't want to remind the world how bad it is right now. I'd rather do something more, fantastical. And, because for the Bridges, this may be something crazy for some other people, but for them, it's a very scary thing. So, to spread that awareness, it's worth it.
Yeah, and it's good to see a lot of different platforms, that people can share their stories, and other people who have stories and never shared it before can hear these, that realize that there are other people out there that are having these experiences.
Right.
That's where, you hope that those people will, warm up and tell their story, get it off their chest. So,
Yeah.
it's I'm glad that I'm able to do that for people. It wasn't my intention, or I didn't realize in the beginning when I started the show that, this was therapy for some people, actually getting it off their chest. It was after the fact. It was a pleasant, like, surprise when I found out that this was helping people.
Yeah. On that note, like, I never really took into account, that these things could actually really, these encounters could actually really leave bad impressions on people.
Oh,
I had never really, given that, that realm of thought any attention, and I was actually talking to Vic from Bigfoot, or not Bigfoot, I'm sorry, Dogman Encounters, and
the
he had
Cundiff.
told, yeah, and he didn't give me any names, but he gave me some examples of some people that had been left very affected by it, and the more it kind of, I guess I really thought about it, and it kind of just dawned on me how, something of this, this crazy of an encounter can really, really just make you uncomfortable. And I work at a mental hospital right now, and I'm around, folks all the time who, will spout out what they saw. I saw a dragon person, and and then now it's kind of, when I think to it, I can almost like apply it. Not saying that people who have these encounters are crazy, but look at, this guy, this resident over here screaming this out. He could be coming from something. He could have genuinely seen something. And when Vic was explaining to me how people get very, bent out of shape with this stuff, it kind of just, it all kind of connected like a, I don't know, like a puzzle to me. And I was like, oh wow, it's, maybe there is something to this, and that's why, I try to spread some positivity, if that makes sense, with this stuff. I know I've kind of learned a little bit of that from Connor too, because when I met Connor, he was very much about spreading the positivity of it too, and I think that's a good thing. Is I know there are some people who do also, they I don't want this to sound how it's going to sound. It sounds really bad, but I have come across some people who seemingly do this more for like the just attention, and I think that's the wrong way to do it. It should be more about just spreading awareness and a message. That's why, like, and like the stuff I do, I try to put the people first because that's the most important part.
Sure. And it's, it's a shame that still, there's so many people, the majority. I mean, we are such a small group of people that are into this, but, that most people think it's a joke and they have no clue, that things like these may exist, that like, these creatures. And then when you do bring it up, the reactions, I guess I would bring it up to anybody when I was working in Sedona. I was dealing with tourists all the time. Some would laugh at you, some would like, oh, they don't exist, and others would be like, funny you should mention that. You never know. So I was always asking people, you ever see anything?
Right.
And yeah, the reactions were just night and day sometimes,
Yeah. I know I still have people like at my job because where I work, it's pretty close to where I did the doc, and I still have people that'll sometimes mock me, but then I also have people that are genuinely intrigued by it, and they'll still ask me questions about it, and I'm like, well, I see that it reached the right people on both spectrums because you got the people that I guess are still maybe too ignorant or maybe too afraid to think about it, or you got those that are now who are not necessarily, certain as to what they believed in. Now they're maybe a bit more lenient, and I just think that's kind of powerful. So it's a strange thing, but it's also fun, and I want to continue doing it. I just need to finish university first because that shreds my time in half along with work. And I know when I did just a 6-minute doc, that took me 2.5 whole weekends of just straight nothing else. So, but that's also worth it. So,
Right on. I'm just reading chat.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm listening, but I'm reading chat because Walter Nightmares, what's up? Welcome. Oh, these mosquitoes are going to carry me away. Damn. I'm going to have to go get the spray here in a minute.
Ow.
I see in the text, someone said, Jack, there is no such thing as primordial ape creatures living anywhere in the world. If there was, we would have known it by now. Dogman is different. Now you are into entities. Okay. I'm a little confused by that, but
He believes in spooks, but not real.
Yeah.
All right, cool beans. But yeah, I other than that, I just want to pop on and kind of say hey to you guys, and it was nice to finally get to see put some faces to some names. So
Right on. Oh, thanks for joining us, man. My door is always open, so you're welcome back anytime, man.
yeah, no, definitely. In fact, hang on, let me just subscribe, so I should get notifications whenever you do stuff. So
And just tell everybody your channel one more time.
It's Altered Cortex Design.
Altered Cortex Design. Right
Someone in the chat, let me see who it was. Mr. Lee 3PO. Mr. Lee 3PO. He shared it, which very kind of him. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys. You have a good evening and be safe.
My pleasure.
It's good meeting you.
Man.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again.
See you later.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I love when new people come on. Hold that. I'm going to rush to that table real quick because I got to get some mosquito spray.
All right. I don't have any way to read the chat right now without completely blowing the thing up, so I can't ask you what you want to talk about.
That's crazy.
There. Now we got Mogs. So,
I'm just packing my hands.
I haven't been able to find a whole lot of Western Sasquatch groups that post stuff that I want to see. But I finally went back to the Olympic Project stuff lately, and I think she was on Sawdust Beach. Cindy Cadell was on there, and she had a recording of a scream whistle. It was kind of a scream whistle howl, and that just cracked me up because I heard that was the very exact sound I heard back in 1968 when we were carrying a girl out in the middle of the night on a stretcher. She had pneumonia, and us 16-year-old kids, we were in an earth science field trip, and we carried her 7.5 miles out of the mountains. And for a couple of 3 miles, 3 things up on the ridge howled that howl and scream whistle at us, and 3 orbs followed us down the canyon. And when one of my friends wanted to bring that up to the teacher, she said, "Shut up. You'll get nothing but laughed at. We'll never get to go on another field trip, and you'll be ridiculed the rest of your time in school. So just don't talk about it." But she knew what it was.
Huh.
She'd been in town in those mountains for her old life, and she's a little old lady.
Wow.
But that was interesting to hear that. And then they were finding Bigfoot nests, probable. They're sure they are. And they showed, an old one that was torn apart, and older ones and newer ones. And I think I've seen the older ones before over here. So that was interesting. And then there's just a lot of sounds they've recorded and stuff since then that I go, well, I'm not too far away. Must be the same family or something, because it was more like the noises I hear than, what I hear them making in the southwest or southeast and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so distracted. These mosquitoes just jack me up.
Is it too hot to wear a shirt?
No, I just put on a long sleeve sweatshirt, but they destroyed my hands. I'm not paying attention to my hands, and they're just sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like scratching.
You can even pull your sleeves over them, and they'll get in there and bite you between the fingers. Little brats.
I'm doing that.
Oh, I know.
Derek McManus, how's it going? Yeah, I don't understand. Like, this is 15% deep. That's probably
that's not strong enough.
Oh,
Probably have to drink it.
They're just licking it off.
Yeah, they are.
Ooh, a new flavor.
Yeah. Oh, hell, this guy hardly put any on. I can get through this. Yeah, that 95%, 99% DEET stuff. Oh my gosh. You only get a couple bites with that.
I don't like using that heavy stuff.
It's horrible. They force it, though. I've tried everything else on the planet except a half-inch of mud like the elk do.
No, it's a bitch when it dries.
Yeah, it is. You crack them. Oh, I'm froze up. I didn't make it back to the wallow in time.
Right? Just, I'm scrolling back to the chat. I see comments and I'm like, well, I have to go back to see where it started.
What the context is, huh?
Because I'm notorious for just blurting out something, not knowing what the context is.
Yeah, I do that. I mess that up often and repeatedly.
But I am just going to keep posting the link in the chat Anybody wants to come on? Want to join us? Hit that link.
Yeah, they're probably like me, about ready to pop and brain turned off.
Yeah. Well, we have about 35 minutes left in the show. All right, the link is in chat. Let's see what else. Eric, what's up, man?
Gotcha.
Yeah. The longer you look, the more questions you end up with. More than
Gosh, if you look at life honestly like that too, the more you learn, the more questions you got. Every new thing you learn raises another 2 or 3 questions. I guess that's why when you get older, you go, I don't know, Jack, what the heck? This whole universe has got a lot in it.
yeah, we just pretend that we know more than we think we do, or
Right.
actually do.
And then there's a lot of people scared that some super smart computer can hold all that information and get around us.
Oh, AI.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's what those UFOs we see are, AIs that got away from somewhere else or under the direction of something else.
Probably under their direction of something else.
I would think.
All right.
But it's also very interesting. We might be somebody's AI anyway.
Or Petri experiment. You know, like a
Probably.
Petri dish.
Probably are. Yeah, I've tried lemon juice too, yes, in the backyard. I don't know if it worked. I didn't check. But I've tried that, what's that, perithrin, what's it called? That's horrible. It works for about 5 minutes. Sage works all right.
Hold on. Hurts. The wrong headlamp. This one's not bright. It sounded like something was walking out to my right.
Oh, that's right. You're in monster heaven.
Well, I hear the birds out there still, but then it sounded like something else was behind me and off to the right.
What kind of birds you got out there that talk at night?
Dude, I don't know what the hell they are. They're like a crane or a
Egret?
egret or something. I'm not sure. They're not like it's not a blue herring because I know what those look like. These are I'm not sure what they are.
Is it a whooping crane? Do they go whoop, whoop?
No. Although, no. Stevie said she heard whooping the other night, but it was like whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop,
I
whoop,
don't know if they do that. We don't have them. I've seen them on TV once or twice. Well, maybe we've had a few flocks come through.
And there's still frogs out there too, so I'm hearing that as well. And then we heard it in March and we hear it again. Something sounds like rock clacking really fast. I don't know if it's an insect, but it's pretty loud. But it sounds like 2 rocks being clacked together.
Really fast.
Yeah.
I've heard that a few times on this one Sasquatch Ridge of mine. And we don't have anything but a Sasquatch that would do that. That would just bang 2 rocks together just faster than I can.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night. Nothing does that around here.
No, we heard it in March and we thought it was I thought it was an insect or something. Didn't I don't hear it now.
But yeah, we don't have any night birds. So when you hear whoops and whistling and stuff like that at night, it ain't a bird. We don't have a lot of what?
Stevie said the rock clacking sounds like Morse code.
Right. Well, it probably is. I don't know. It's interesting over here in Oregon, the views that they got on Bigfoot. They got the one school where they're an ape. That's like the Olympic project. They're officially calling it an ape, but that's physically. I don't know what they're thinking mentally. And then we got another guy.
All right, hold on. I've got a bunch of people here.
All right. Uh-oh.
Hey, what's
Hello.
And who else? Niall.
Niall. Hi, Niall.
Niall. Yeah. What's up, guys?
Nile like the river in Egypt.
My,
it's not Neil Nile.
I apologize.
No need to apologize. I always have this. I'm Irish, so I don't like the word Neil because we were taken over by the British for too long. So it's the bastardized version of my true name, which is Niall. In English, it's Neil. But I always say it's like the river in Egypt. The river in Egypt. Hey, cool to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Wanted to jump in and say a few things, but I can take my time. Just continue.
I just want to say y'all been doing a great job. I like the show so far.
Thank you very much, man.
My first time coming over here, Barry got me to check you out and everything. I really like that guy. Barry's a real guy, good guy.
Yeah, he is.
Barry's a funny guy. Had an opportunity to hang out with him for a week, and holy crap, that man is funny. Never laughed so hard in my life. All of us when we were here for the 168. But yeah, man, I'm glad you stopped in.
No problem, man. Like I said, I've found I haven't heard the rock clacking real fast like y'all were talking about. I've heard them do it before, especially in the out at my place where we call Booger Valley. But it's more like clack, clack, and then they'll stop. It's usually two, and then they stop. They don't beat them together real fast. Now I've got up close to them where they start. I thought they were slapping their a stick on a tree or something. So I got to see them in the daytime doing it. They're actually bumping their teeth together like a hog sow will do, real fast.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, usually they're not in a good mood when they're doing that.
Yeah, probably.
They'd have to be huge to make the sound I heard. Well, they are huge. Never mind.
Well, I just went out to a logging site where they drug a 16-foot trailer with a 500-gallon tank of diesel that had just been filled up. That evening, they left, and when they come back the next morning, it was drug up a hill, turned upside down, and it looked like somebody had used it for a trampoline.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about like 4,500 pounds easily, and they drug it up a hill. Let's put it this way, they moved all their equipment out of there.
No doubt. It's cheaper.
Yeah. One of the skidder operators was backing up to get a load, and he said he caught it out of the corner of his eye. He just seen a large figure, and it took a tree limb or a piece of a tree that was about 8 foot long and the size of a coffee can, threw it like a javelin, and it hit that window and went through the window. And now that's 1/4-inch Lexan glass. That's bulletproof glass that it broke out.
Lexan, you say?
Yes, sir. That's what's in a.
Oh yeah, we put that on our fishboat windows. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a Cat 535 skidder. I think it was a D model or something. Like I said, it was bad enough that they had to move because all the other guys told them that they wasn't coming back out there until they left that track. So they didn't have any choice but leave because all the guys were trying to quit.
Wow.
And that Lexan's tough. It knocked our wheelhouse. The wave knocked our wheelhouse back 1 inch, and none of those windows broke.
Well, he said he just caught a glimpse of it as he had just picked up a drag of wood and was turning back around to make sure he wasn't fixing to hit nothing before he took off, and he turned back around to raise those things have what they call a dual arch. He was raising the arch up to make sure it was off the ground and was fixing to take off, and he turned around right as this thing hits the window. He said all he seen was a large figure. These tires in this thing are humongous. I'm 5'6", and I can stand beside it. My head's not over. And he said this thing's head was above the tire.
Wow.
So I said,
That's big.
Well, that might be the answer to my disappearing elk. We tracked an elk that had lost 5 gallons of blood on the ground, I'm sure. And right there is its deathbed. You can see where its legs were kicking, where it slid around on the ground. And then not a mark leaving. Just somebody just picked it up and walked off with it and didn't leave a trace. Not a mark on the ground or anything. I don't get that. Of course, we weren't looking for big giant flat.
Can I jump in at some stage?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Now,
here you go.
I don't want to be rude to anybody, but the reason I'm called you guys is I've been very confused about the kind of divisions amongst the Bigfoot communities over the years, especially over the last 40 years. You know, you seem to be very, very at each other's throats most of the time. Some of that is down to particular sightings in particular areas. Some of it is down to exactly what we're dealing with. Some of them are down to just groups forming jealousies against each other for no apparent reason. As a European, it's very confusing. I have a degree in anthropology, believe it or not. So I do understand some of the paranoia that goes along with Sasquatch obsession. A lot of the stuff that I hear is very, it's kind of repetitive. It's second-hand information, third-hand information, fourth-hand information. Some of it is urban myth. I know I'm probably insulting most of your client base or your, chat room clientele by even suggesting such a thing. But there has to be a reason why there is a massive division with the Bigfoot community. And I would like somebody to just explain that to me in terms of what you know about the species, about the proof, about that there has been no definitive account of any kind of hominid species, whether it be bones, whether it be feces, hair. There's been lots of claims. Nothing has been sent to a laboratory. Nothing has been tested. Nothing has been verified. So we are left with kind of an urban myth situation. So without sounding like an asshole, I really don't want to sound that way. I just want to understand what we are talking about here.
Well, there have been a lot of samples, DNA samples sent to labs. In the past, Melba Catcham was a geneticist who put her career on the line to
yes, that's true.
check samples of supposed Bigfoot. One of the gentlemen that frequents our channel quite often, Jeff Harding, they're in the middle of a project where they're collecting as many samples as they can, and having people send them samples. They have a university that's willing to test them for free. And
so there is some kind of cover up here, or at least kind of
Well,
degrading of the information. They don't take it seriously, in other words. So it's either a cover up or it's not taken seriously.
Mr. Mongo and Mr. Pop, I don't know how well do y'all know Miss Melvin? Because you mentioned her. That's who I was going to bring up.
Melba Cutchin?
Yeah.
I have read some stuff about her. She sent a lot of those samples to what? 7 different labs?
Yeah. Well,
and a lot of them blew her off right when she told them what she thought they were.
Reason why I'm asking that is because I personally know her.
Oh, good. She seems to be a great lady.
This is the thing I was going for this man to understand. Melvin Kitchen was the leading DNA expert in the world, not the United States, but the world. When the bombing of the world, when the planes hit the trade centers, when every agency started asking, who do we need to get to bring in a DNA expert? We need the leading one to get these families their remains back. Melvin Kitchen's name was at the top of the FBI, the CIA, Department of Defense, all those. They brought her in. She was world renowned. Then she got involved with a group. I'm not going to name it on here because this is not my show to do that. But she got involved with a group where they wanted a leading research scientist to take evidence and send it to these labs. She started doing that. Well, when she started releasing some of the stuff that she was getting back, that this thing had primate and human DNA in it, and she wouldn't shut up. They discredited her. She can't get it. She went from the leading DNA expert in the world to now she can't get a job teaching science or biology.
Well, are you surprised?
No, and I know that, and how I know this for a fact is because the company I used to work for was hired as her personal bodyguard because there were several attempts done on her life.
Yeah. There's a number of things to think about here, right? If you're a believer, you can go all the way back to the Soviet Union and the experiments that Stalin was doing on humans, trying to mate them with chimps, and apes and the higher primates to create a super soldier and all that kind of stuff. There are theories that some of these creatures could have been absorbed into society in some way and grown and might have reproduced and been left to their own devices in various locations, particularly in the United States, because the United States worked very closely with Russia in those days, with this kind of idea of integration of DNA. And it might have got out of control. All these kind of things have popped up over the years. But the thing, the fundamental idea of an 8-foot hominid existing in the wilds of the US, which is mostly where it occurs. There have been occasions throughout Europe and Asia and Africa, but it's an American phenomenon.
Canada, Alaska,
primarily, and Alaska, yeah. It's just it makes no sense, it makes no sense because it would have been impossible to hide it,
No. I can give you
especially if these
But
creatures.
Railroad's not coming tomorrow.
I can give you more proof that it does exist than
He's
any
going to
any
spend
scientist
time with his
you-
grandma.
that it doesn't. If Mr. Mongo doesn't care, I can actually play a sound right now. All right, I'm in Mississippi. This sound was recorded 3 days ago in Mississippi. Are there any kind of large predators in Mississippi that y'all, either one of y'all know of? Before I play this,
You can play it, but I have no idea.
uh,
I don't know what's in Mississippi. I'm sure there's cats or something.
we don't even have bear. Now I'm going to play this. This was recorded with a cell phone. Let it hit and play. I had to pull up 3 different screens here. There we go. It's loud.
Now you're saying this was recorded 3 days ago?
This was recorded 3 days ago.
Sorry, guys. That could be anything. That could be distorted through any means, through a simple PA system, fed back through a microphone. You know. I'm sorry. That is not proof of anything. Yeah, that's a weird sound, but it's. I could do that. I could do that in 5 minutes and play it back to you, if you want me to. So I just want to know, without annoying anybody, why are you so sure that these creatures exist? Why are you so convinced to the point that you think people like me are completely mad that we don't see it? Why do you, what is it? There is no proof. There is no definitive proof of any of this.
There wasn't any proof the Sealy camp existed either until they found it either. It was supposed to have been extinct for not once but twice.
Yeah.
Big difference between a fish and a 8 foot tall creature. I mean,
Somebody would have shot
I can tell you
one of these creatures by now. Somebody would have shot one of these
No.
creatures by now.
now,
They had.
now,
Yes.
I have been a survivalist in the woods. I have been a logger, a mushroom picker, a berry picker, spending all my time out in the woods for 50 years, not counting the 15 that I was at sea in Alaska. And those were only half years, and the rest I spent in the woods. And I have heard all kinds of things over those years that I could never figure out what they was. The thing being that Bigfoot was not in my world at all, right? It was something, you could tell me a Bigfoot story and I'd either laugh at you or I'd listen intently, and then it was out of my mind, never to be heard, you know. So I didn't believe in them. I thought, nah, no way. I would have seen one. I would have snuck up on one. I would have shot one. And then I saw one. And they can move fast and sneaky. I mean, the damn thing just showed itself to me. It's the only reason I got to see it, you know. And it just walked right out and stood in the road. They like my wife. I don't know why. I don't know what they are. They look like a 9 foot tall ape with a man's face. But they look more like the man. Just the hairy part and the muscles look like the ape or some other gigantic creature. And that's what they look like. What they are, I am trying to figure out. That's why I'm here. Because boom.
I'm just going to laugh. Why do you think they like your wife?
I don't know. I'm just joking because some people say they do that. They tag you. They whatever. They like women. I don't know what it is about her, but there's a little mystical stuff about her, you know, being able to contact
Papa.
with the other side. One more, just let me say one more thing.
Yeah,
I
of
don't know
course.
whether they're an ape or an alien or a demon or a mixture of all that. I have no idea. I've heard everything under the sun, and nobody's convinced me. And that's why we're being dumb about it, I think. You know what I mean? And then
Well,
it's the internet seems to set people up to fight. You know,
well,
we say and do things that we wouldn't
I hope you
do
don't
looking.
think. I hope you don't think I'm fighting with you guys
No,
tonight.
no, no, no. And I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm just saying that's what
Yeah.
happened to me, and that's why I'm here. And a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own experiences, which I will not go into here, but that nothing to do with Bigfoot. But I do believe in entities that exist in different dimensions that can slip in and out. I've personally experienced that myself. Um, I think that is probably closer to the truth of the Bigfoot phenomena than we realize. Um, it makes more sense logically, you know, and also it kind of ties in with a lot of the ufology aspects of so-called abduction and theories, and it's strange to even be talking about this, but it kind of ties into the entity, the whole idea of quantum physics and the way the universe works would make more sense that creatures who respond to certain aspects of humanity, what they expect to us to see, what frightens us. You can call it demonic, you can call it, any kind of aspect that you want to. But I would lean more, as somebody who studied anthropology, I would lean more towards the idea of shifting dimensions than I would to an actual creature who has survived for so long in such a. It doesn't matter how distant the location or how forested it is. We've pretty much covered this entire planet, and we can send up drones, and they can pretty much tell what's living in the deepest caves in any area of our planet. So the idea that a creature is, and its families and its offspring has been existing totally without observation for thousands of years, with possibly two. One is the Gimlin tape, which is, pretty impressive, from the 60s. And the other one was some audio taken in the Colorado by a bunch of guys who used to go up to I think in Colorado for years on end, they recorded stuff over and over. So this is before the days that you could adjust audio. So some of those sounds were really creepy and really eerie. You could hear rocks and you could hear these growls from the woods, but they didn't have the facility to adjust the audio in those days. And these tapes were actually given to somebody, and then, they were presented by a university, and said, "Well, this is weird, but we think it's genuine. These sounds were coming from the woods, and that's what it sounded like." And we can't place that in any kind of animal register or human register in terms of vocalization. So two possible things that you can take seriously. One is the gimbal and one's the audio.
All right.
So that's kind of where I come from. The other stuff is if you're talking literally, I would be very suspicious of any of it.
You,
But I would take seriously the idea of dimensional shifts.
all right, you
So
want to talk
that's
about literally, and you keep bringing science and stuff in. So we're going to go to the law side of stuff. In the United States, there's a
Sure.
federal law called the Hominid Act that Congress got passed into law. That means it went through Congress, the Senate, the president signed it. There's a law, federal law, that says if you kill, maim, hurt, or therefore anything else to an unknown hominid species, the federal government can come in. If you have a body, can seize the body, seize all your evidence, and seize you. Now, anybody can tell you how hard it is to get our government to agree on anything, especially to turn something into a law.
Sure.
So
that's a strange one. Yeah.
And how much money it takes to get something turned into a law.
Mm-hmm.
So they spent billions of dollars to get this law passed for supposedly, like some people say, for a fictitious animal. That just makes absolutely no sense.
Maybe that was the point. To keep you looking in a different direction. You know, it could have been purely political. You know, who knows? I have no idea. I never heard of that law. But it's certainly interesting, yeah.
So your point about that it seems ridiculous they haven't been found, right? I don't think you've seen our forests from standing in them, right? They're vast, vast, vast. And even if somebody walked through there once, nobody's going to walk through this place again for 100 years. At least 50. I've seen places where, you know, nobody in 50 years but me has ever walked through. But there was me. And the other thing, I mean, just take a look at what the Afghans did to the United States Army in staying invisible from them in their mountains. So maybe it can be done. Maybe, you know, I think you could hide a herd of mammoths out in our forests in British Columbia and Alaska. And some of those ones down south are just as tangled up. But I don't know if it's like I said, if they're aliens or can jump through dimensions.
I think what you're referring to is the giant who jumped out of the cave at the bunch of U.S. Marines in
No,
Afghanistan.
I'm just talking. No, I'm talking about what the Taliban did to the United States Army. They stayed invisible. They stayed hidden. They stayed out of sight, and we had every technology in the world to find them and blow them up. And they whooped us, straight up whooped us.
Yeah, they dug in. They dug in. There's no doubt, but they still knew they were there. Yeah, with Bigfoot, there's absolutely no evidence at all. There's just nothing, you know.
But there is.
There is. There's a bunch of it.
Then none of it's accepted. It's laughed at. There are tens of thousands of people who have seen them. You say nobody's seen them, and there's tens of thousands.
I never said nobody saw them.
If I tell people I've seen a Bigfoot, it doesn't. No, he did not.
Yeah.
That's the only place their head can go.
I mean, out of all of those cases, though, not even one photograph that can be analyzed.
If you see you're not going to be thinking of taking a photograph.
I got one on my computer, but that I saw the Bigfoot, but it's all blurry.
And there are experts.
Why do they do that? Why do they do that? How do they blur everybody's friggin' camera? But they do.
I think it's because they move so fast.
Anyway, listen, I'm not trying to be smart.
But the Bigfoot wasn't blurred. Everything was blurred.
Oh, okay.
How do they drain your batteries? That's another thing that just drives me nuts. Everybody says that. Our batteries went dead. Our cameras quit working.
See, I just started experiencing
that. Now, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point, Papa. That's an interesting point. That's why I think that the story might be bigger than we think.
Right.
The paranormal also.
What, Mr.
Yeah.
Derek? What'd you say?
Yeah, right. Okay.
What'd you say?
Yeah, what's up, Derek? We'll give him a turn, huh? Are you there?
McManus, that's an Irish name.
Oh, he's Irish.
I am from the north, you crying free state cunt.
Oh, Jesus. We have a fucking Protestant here. I'm joking.
You have two.
Come the revolution, you'll be up against the wall, my friend.
I hope you're joking, my friend.
No, I'm joking. No, it's good. It's good to hear somebody else from Ireland on the show.
Yeah.
Like I've been on with Mogs before.
You've got two
and I heard that
two Irish people on the panel tonight.
As soon as I seen Niall coming up, I thought, right, I'm going to have to jump on.
Okay, Derek, tell us what you think.
That's a man from my part of the world. The only thing I will say, Niall, I'm not going to assume anything, but I have travelled in the States, and the States are vast compared to Ireland. You know, all our forest is managed. We've lived here for literally maybe 6,000 years. It's a different story from the States. The States is so much bigger, and there is land, as Papa Craig says, that the people haven't set foot on. And the possibility is that, you know, obviously, like, I live in Ireland too. I've never seen one of these creatures. There's people here that has. But, you know, it's just a wee different, you know, slightly different worldview, if you understand what I'm saying. You know, it's just different place. There's high mountains, there's big forests. And, you know, the possibility exists. It's the same, you know.
It is
but the
possible.
thing is, the interesting thing is, too, if it's not a, like you sort of touched on this already, but if it's not a living, physical, you know, flesh and blood creature, the fact that so many eyewitnesses have said the same thing, there has to be some sort of phenomenon going on.
See, that's a good.
If you understand what I'm saying,
that's a good point, Derek. A lot of people have not said the same thing. That's, in my opinion, the division in the Bigfoot community is because there is not really a consistency in statements. When you take it all as a big picture, you hear the noise. There was a big thing. It came in, crashed through your window, or threw something through your into your Land Rover. You know,
even when you dig into it, but I'll concede that point definitely. But even when you dig into it, with some of what they would call the physical encounters, the people describes very different creatures. You know, to the extent, as you say, you know, you were talking about dimensional beings earlier. You know, some of the things I've heard are practically Lovecraftian. You know,
absolutely.
Creatures with tentacles and things.
All you have to look,
you know, but
all you have to do is
it's an interesting phenomenon.
All you have to do is look to Utah. Yeah, what's the name of the ranch up there? Like
Skinwalker.
Skinwalker, and what was going on with Skinwalker? I mean, there was everything coming out of the woods. There was giant wolves. Well, there was Bigfoot.
I have to say, I would honestly would like to have seen the dogs smoking them with great coats on. I really would have liked to have seen them.
Yeah. I mean, it was everything. You know, I tend to believe that they show us what we want to see, or what scares us, or what they want to show us. In Skinwalker, they don't forget Bigelow sent scientists up there for 7 years. 7 years, those guys were up there, right? And one of them was an Irishman, Colin Keller, lives in the States. Wrote a book about it along with George Knapp from Las Vegas, and they hadn't one bit of evidence. They said, "Oh, every time we turned our cameras on, something turned them off." You know, so all right. Every time we put our lights on, something turned them off. Okay, all right. So all we had was hearsay, and they said, "Well, what we saw," and these were scientists. But what we saw, we saw.
It's a weird world. I mean, you look back in the history of Northern Ireland. You think how many folk tales and stories do we have? Giants and leprechauns and little people and people vanishing. And
it's enormous.
You know, it's a phenomenon. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yes, it is. I agree with you totally, Derek. And I suppose culturally, and I want to go back to something that you said about the sheer size of the United States. Yes, you know, we're on a small island. Of course, there's massive areas of land and forestry and really remote areas in the States that very few people go into except for hunters and stuff like that. And people who fish and very hikers and etc., 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 and people who live in these areas. But it's impossible to concede. It's impossible for me to even imagine that over the last 50 years there hasn't been a shred of evidence, not a shred of evidence that somebody like myself who was living in an area like that could find. If I was living in the remote Appalachian Mountains or somewhere in Alaska or at the foot of the Sierras or something like that, right? If I found something, even if it was a pile of dung or some hair or a bone, that I couldn't take that and independently take that and get that examined, and and not get it covered up and taken away from me. That's impossible in this day and age. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever. If you find something, you can take it and you can do what you want with it. If you're intelligent enough, you can actually, analyze it yourself. Yeah, it's not that complicated. You can go to a library and figure out how to do it. You can figure out how the cracks and bones, how they work, how old they are. You can take a pile of feces and discover how old that is. You can take some hair and discover if it came from an animal, human, or other. So it's not that complicated.
You can
even
have
with
nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
Like when you go with the DNA, there's nothing to compare it to. And I had suggested with Jeff Harding, and he told me what he was doing, and I was glad to hear it because, you have all these samples from all over the country, and everybody's like, well, there's nothing to compare it to. Well, compare it to each other. Just all these anomalies, just compare them to each other, and that's what they're going to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's like he keeps saying there's no evidence. The foot tracks are in the diversity in them. The other thing is you're an anthropologist, and you keep saying the someone should have seen it and all this kind of stuff. People have been saying it. Have y'all heard of the bully ape? The bully ape was described by the indigenous tribes over there for years. And everybody's, oh no, it's a fictitious thing or whatever. Well, guess what? They have now been put on the species list. This is a 6 foot tall chimp that for over 50 years that was denied that ever existed. And it ain't hard for the government, U.S. government, or even your government or the British government. If they don't want something out, it's not going to be out. I used to work for the government. I know how they operate. If they don't want it to be heard, it's not going to be heard. And if it does get out, they have a special department for discrediting people. That's the first thing they do. Look at Melvin Kitchum again. I said she went from the leading in the world to now she can't even teach high school.
I believe you. Of course.
Well, I'll tell you a wee story about government. I was in the Royal Navy for 12 years. And we had a communication system called Link. And ourselves, the Royal Navy and the US Navy had Link 24. And we limited everyone else to Link 16. NATO allies and everything. They were only allowed Link 16. And if you think Link 24 was the best we had, the powers that be had something better than that again. I mean, that's just nothing to do with Bigfoot. I'm just saying the governments are sneaky.
Oh, yeah.
Militaries are sneaky.
Well, like I was telling someone on my channel one time, they were talking about the new night vision. I said, yeah, I've seen it years ago, because everything that you think is modern and is coming out now that y'all are seeing, you're probably 15 years behind what the U.S. government is using.
Yeah.
It's very true. And also, listen, I'm not saying that there is no cover-up. Derek will agree with me. if you introduce something to the government, they're going to twist it around and make it, falsify it in some way.
Well,
And
Jeff,
Derek will agree with me. In our own country, we have myths and legends that seem fanciful to the rest of the world, but for us, there is some
For a lot of
basis in
Irish
fact.
people, that they're very real, especially the older generation, especially the rural
yes.
generation. They genuinely are a real thing.
Yes.
Well, if you need really convincing, if you ever get over to the States, I'm pretty sure Mr. Mongolian will carry you out. Pops will carry you out. Hell, I'll carry you out. I've been 10 feet away from these things, so you can't tell me they're not real.
And I wouldn't presume to say that to you. I know.
The other thing is, I don't know if Mr. Mongolian or Pops has anybody that's in, or they're friends with anybody in law enforcement. The law enforcement actually has codes set up to if someone has a sighting or an officer has a problem, whatever, they can give that code out, and that lets the other officers know what they're dealing with and what to come with.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it just goes to show you what we're dealing with. And that's why it probably ties into ufology in so many respects, because the government wants to keep a lot of stuff hidden. They want to release a certain amount. They want to keep people kind of guessing, and then they'll hide the rest. That's what governments do, and that's what the military complex does, and that's what the black budget people do.
Look at the Tic Tac videos that they just started releasing and stuff. For years and years, the government even put up projects, spent millions of dollars, the Blue Book, Project Blue Book, all that, to absolutely deny that UFOs and aliens were real in any kind of way. Now they're releasing evidence from their own planes that they have unidentified flying objects, whatever the hell they are. Whatever they are, that they're releasing now. Say, okay, yes, we know aliens exist. That's all they said. They kind of like dropped the mic and walked off.
Yeah, they feature a certain amount, and then they let you figure it out on your own. My
now,
point
what
is,
I'll tell you is half, well, maybe not half, but some of them UFOs belongs to different governments around the world. As I say again, I was in the Navy for 12 years, and there was can't remember the actual what they called it. It was a nickname, but there was a supersonic, fighter plane, and it could come from the States to Scotland in less than 2 hours, and they turned it around at an airbase outside it was RAF Marrakesh. And whenever we seen it in the radar, we were told to ignore it. Just wipe that off.
That sounds like the SR-71.
No, it was beyond the SR-71. It was the next step up.
That's very interesting.
That's very interesting. I can't remember the name of the place. You can see it from Ballycastle. Oh, there's Jeff. Whenever you look over, but it's a wee tiny bit of Scotland. But coincidentally, it has the longest airfield or the longest runway in Britain for some strange reason.
Yeah, it's not strange at all. Yeah. By the way, Mogulon. If you want to cut us off and the show was over, you just tell us.
Oh, I'm aware. Jeff just got here. This could get interesting.
Yeah. You look a little
discussions could
you
go
look a little
for hours.
You look a little bored at the moment, so I just
like Stanley Ditchman.
Go ahead, Derek.
My back's killing me.
I was just going to say, if you haven't been on before now, these discussions can go on for hours.
Oh yeah,
they end up being friends chatting to each other, not just on the topic, but just about anything.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about it. I mean, I'm an Irishman. You're an Irishman. You know what we do? We talk.
Where do we just live?
That was Mr. Pops.
Oh, Papa Craig.
How you doing, Mr. Jeff?
Hey guys, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, Jeff.
It's
you guys will.
We've covered a lot of ground, So
I've been listening to you. You guys will learn too that Mugs
if he's got guests on in a panel that's carrying a good conversation, his lack of saying anything isn't because he's bored. He
I'm listening.
knows when the panel can carry itself, and he's as intrigued to listen to
No,
what's going on as he is to input stuff. So
he's like a sponge. He's been back there sucking up everything everybody's been saying.
yeah. No, I get it. I've been. It's really curious to me is just reading what people are saying in the chat, and there's people that are passionate about this, right, in our community, and they get, when they hear somebody that brings that other side of the aisle viewpoint of, show me the proof, why isn't it happening, I get it, I get why they get frustrated with that, but from a research standpoint, that's how I approached my research in the beginning. Is I looked at all these things and said, why are they not working, right? How come there's a million game cameras out there and we can get millions of pictures of deer every freaking week, but we can't get a picture of Bigfoot, right? I mean, I looked at all these things and I tried to come up with a research approach designed around that. And so, well, look, if it doesn't work, I'm not going to use it in my research. I'm, at least not at first, because I'm not going to stay inside the box and keep doing things that don't seem to be productive, right? So I approached this on some of you folks in chat have heard what the method of my project that I worked with Doug Hychek for it's almost 8 months now. I looked at all these different areas. My approach was going to be to go into one, with no cameras, no electronics at all, and not worry about trying to get a picture or a video or audio evidence. I wanted to collect DNA. I wanted to make it's what I considered its weakest chink in its armor was its own curiosity, right? If you could provoke its curiosity,
brilliant point,
and
Jeff.
make it comfortable to keep coming back to a same spot and make that spot part of a routine, okay?
It's logical as well.
I was kayaking 8.5 miles up a river into a remote clearing. And the way I did this is I went to 5 or 6 different clearings with a red ball. It was a rubber ball I bought at Walmart for $2. And I went into a clearing and I'd kick the ball and throw it around and play with it. And I'd laugh at it. And I did this for an hour. And then I left the ball there, surrounded in the deep forest in one little clearing about maybe 70 yards by 90 yards. I'd leave the ball and I'd walk out, get my kayak and leave. And the next day, I would kayak back in and see if that ball's moved. And that ball was a rubber ball you'd buy at Walmart, probably 15 inches round. If a bear was to press it with its paw, it would puncture it. It's very light rubber. If a deer moved it, nosed it, it would move 5 feet, right? It wouldn't move. So if it was moved just a little bit, I wasn't going to pay attention to those results. And I did that over and over in different clearings. So I got to one where it was moved 85 feet overnight. And I thought, okay, that's enough for me to start using this clearing as a research area. And I started incorporating. It was small at first, but every week on a Thursday morning, I'd kayak in and I'd leave stuff. And every Friday, I'd collect it. And it was stuff designed to collect DNA. That rubber ball now had Velcro tabs all around it. I would leave pieces of little Bitto honey candy bar, little bite-sized pieces in different areas with fluorescent blue flagging tape around a branch to where I'd set it. And once it'd start getting taken, I didn't know if that was a bear or a squirrel, could have been anything, right? Till I started putting it in clear baby food jars with the lid screwed on tight. And I'd come back and the lid would be off and the candy's gone. And I'm talking with, the only other thing besides a Sasquatch could be a human that would do this. But I knew that there weren't going to be humans in this area. I absolutely knew it because of how far off the grid it was.
Okay. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When you put the ball down, was it moved directly across the ground, or was it put up into the trees?
Well, first of all, what I would make sure is that it was never a night that there was substantial wind. And we're talking 70 to 90 foot tall pines and birch and poplar around this clearing, so that you didn't even feel wind when it was windy. But if there was ever a breeze, I'd put it on the downwind side of the clearing when I'd leave it. So if it was on the upwind side, I knew it didn't blow there.
So what you're saying is the ball was never taken off the ground and put into the trees or elsewhere.
But there were things like I would bring a game camera into the area, and instead of strapping it to a tree, it would have no batteries in it. I painted the whole thing fluorescent blue and left the Velcro strap on it. And I would carry that out into the field and leave it lay on the ground. And I would find it slung up hanging from a branch or dropped 50 yards away. Things were interacting with this. And
things
what I was doing,
there was something
what I was
interacting
doing
with this.
is from the items that I was leaving, I'd have smears and fingerprints from the skin oil, the sebum oil on their hands. And I would take DNA samples of that. I collected 37 hair samples that were left on Velcro tabs of things.
And where did you get the DNA sequence?
What do you mean? No, I'm saying I collected the samples. They're in a lab now.
Oh, okay.
So I did this as part of me and Doug Hychek and a couple others, they are producing Legend Meets Science 2. It's going to be a documentary that is going to establish a DNA database in 3 different independent labs, all the way up from samples all around the country.
Wow.
We've collected in similar ways. This isn't, I walked up on a trail and found a hair. I don't know what it could be. We're taking samples that have what we've established as a 5-scale pattern around the diameter of the shaft, which all of the data that we've come up with from different scientists, that's not a human hair, okay? Because there's a lot of different hairs it could be, but we know it's not a human one. The human hair has 6 or 7 scales around the shaft diameter.
That's right.
Yeah. Regardless of what color your hair is or what nationality you are, you have 6 or 7 scales on. So our first vetting principle is to make sure we don't have a human hair, right? Because all of the Ketchum samples and all of these past samples of hair that we've thought to be true showed 5 scales. Now, that's not to say there's not other animals out there that have a 5-scale pattern, but that was our way to tell we don't have a human hair. And if it had a lack of medulla in the core, and it met what we've noticed, and if we collected it in a way where we just didn't find a hair, but we actually purposefully set a trap like this and caught it, we got to a point where we did this for 37 weeks in a row. And there's some weeks I got 3 hair samples, there's some weeks I got none, but there's only 4 of the 37 weeks in which something didn't interact with the items we left. And when I say interact, we've had interactions of stuff that, I mean, I've had these wood knock behind me after I walked into the area where I pulled my kayak up. And when I go back to my kayak, the paddle's taken out of the cockpit of my kayak and something deplunged the plunger and separated the paddle into 2 pieces. And set one in the boat and stuck the blade of one in the sand. And then I look and see the sebum smears on the shaft of the paddle, and I take DNA evidence off of that. There's just all these things that happen throughout this. But
so you have a ton of DNA evidence at this stage.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So our goal is we put it in a lab with a major university. But we didn't want to create the same mistake Ketchum did. I don't want to put it into one lab, right? Because what happens if one scientist of that one lab was infiltrated by the government or was proven to have a history of hoaxing or something like that, right? So we put the samples into one lab, and when they come out of that lab, they go into a completely different second lab with new scientists, a new team. And when it comes out of that lab, it goes into a third one.
Okay.
So we'll take 3 triplicated results of all these samples. Now, understanding the samples that I have could have been just from one individual, or it could be from 6 or 7 individuals,
Of course,
right?
of course.
But we've done similar exercises like this in different areas around the country and collected hairs so that Washington, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Western New York, we've got samples, DNA samples, either hair or skin oil samples from a pretty good geographical spread across North America and Canada. So that we're putting over 100 samples into the lab. And
okay, what is the time scale? Is this a current situation, or is this
the DNA analysis is just starting it will be starting in the first lab. I mean, not all the samples aren't even in the lab, but
wow?
Talk about synchronicity.
I think we were meant to have this conversation tonight.
People say, when will Legend Meet Science 2 be out, right? So we can watch it. The fact is it won't be out till the end of 2022 because there's going to literally be 7-8 months of lab work being done now. I mean, it doesn't go quick when you're trying to do it in different labs at the right consistency so that it can't be torn apart. I mean, if you're gonna, here's what our goal was, and this may start to make more sense, is in the past, including with Ketchum, every time a DNA sample's sampled and they break it down, they come to the conclusion that they see human elements of DNA in it, and they also see unknown primate. Okay, now when they arrived to that point and they discounted every other genome of every animal on the map that they know about that's base mapped in science, when they come to that unknown sample, what did they do with it? They set it aside and they moved on. It was never base mapped or categorized into a library of those samples, right?
You're exactly right, Jeff. That's the way DNA sequencing works.
So basically, we've come to the conclusion that DNA sampling, although the individual sampling that they arrived at those conclusions probably was good for whatever science they had at that period of time it was tested, it's been absolute shit in the way that they've documented it and categorized it. So our first goal, when you look at where DNA is advanced to now, it's 10 times more advanced than it was last year at this time. And next year it'll be 10 times more than it is. It's so moving so fast. So at this point, our job is to create a library. So I don't care if this sample 7 that I give you doesn't match anything you know about. What I care is my sample 7 match sample 34 that I gave you.
Yeah.
And does sample 34 match sample 21? And if you can start showing, hey, all these samples are showing human DNA elements, not unknown primate, and no known animal match. Take that exact genome and build a base map of 150 samples or however many you test, and library them, so that I'm not saying this is a creature. I'm saying when you run into that unknown result in the future, go to this base map library and see if there's a match.
Can I just ask you?
And we start creating that.
Yeah. Can I just ask you a question, Jeff? Did you really get a result that they said unknown primate? I would very much doubt they said that to you.
Well,
they would say unknown sequence or
sure. They're going just like
You mentioned the word
instance,
unknown primate a number of times.
well, in the past, well, you're asking me about my results. My results, I've never had a result come back yet because they're all just going into the lab, the first
Okay.
lab. Okay.
Okay.
So I can't speak to the results of anything that we're putting in at this point because we're in the process of putting it into the lab. But I'm looking at in the past. In the past, you'll see different you've heard about different results in the past depending on the lab that tested it, the verbiage they use speaking to the results. That's another unexact science, is that when they test them, to what extent did they test them? All labs weren't created equal 10 years ago, especially back when Ketchum did her experiment.
No, there weren't.
So, the result, her samples could have brought in the lab at the University of North Carolina, or what they would have brought in from a UK lab, or what they would have brought from a lab, at the University of Montana. You could have gotten 3 different sets of results, and even the verbiage that they talk about the results could have all been different because
Exactly.
it just wasn't an exact science when they did that.
Yeah.
So
But
I think we've advanced now enough with
Yeah.
science and technology that we can at least start establishing a base map so that when you test a hair and Joe tests a hair and Derek tests a hair and they get these results, what are you going to compare them to? You're going to compare them to everything you know about, and you can't compare them to anything you don't know about because nobody ever kept those samples. Well, now we have them.
Yes. Well, Jeff, I think what you're doing is fantastic. I really do. And when you're talking about comparing samples to the unknown, in science, what gets scientists excited is if they can compare it to the unknown within a certain genome sequence of a DNA molecule. In other words, we can get very, convoluted here, but there is a percentage of a DNA molecule which can deviate from a standard DNA molecule.
Well, and a good example of that is you look at white-tailed deer here in northern Minnesota or South Dakota, where they're corn-fed, open range. And then you look at a white-tailed deer in Alabama. Okay, a white-tailed deer in Alabama might have an impressive rack, but it's about the size of a Doberman. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not 300 pounds. It's like 185 pounds undressed. So, but yet in science, they would look at that and say, well, they're both white-tailed deer. And if you do their DNA, they'll, on the surface, will classify into the species of white-tailed deer. But when you break those genomes down and you really map it out, you start realizing there are differences between those two deer, even though they look the same, 35% body mass difference. And I would expect that you will find those intricate differences. Let's say if there's a Sasquatch in Florida and one in British Columbia, and the British Columbia one's 10-foot tall alpha male that weighs 1,200 pounds, and the one in Florida seems to be a full-grown male, but it's 7.5 foot tall and weighs 850 pounds. There's going to be a lot of similarities likely in that DNA, but there will be distinct trackable differences.
And that's what gets scientists excited, is when they see those trackable differences, as you put them, and they're not just going to say, well, we can't trace this, or we're just going to put this down to the unknown, or it might be the sample might be messed up, or we just forget about it, we move on. The sequencing of DNA has kind of changed, as you said, Jeff. It's changed. It's become more accessible in the fact that these people kind of know what we're talking about here tonight. They are kind of looking for those differences rather than the similarities. I mean, years ago, DNA sequencing was very expensive. You know, it was only carried out, you know, in extreme circumstances for medical
Yeah.
research.
And it still
Um,
is. It still
it still is. But you know, there are people out there, you know, who know how to, you know, scan in a hair, you know, and they know about the breakdown. You spoke about human hairs earlier on, and how about they're broken down into it's much. It's kind of like having studied anthropology. It's kind of like the trunk of a tree, except they're not rings. They kind of grow downwards. There are certain people on Earth who have 8 of these kind of strange thicknesses of hair. Some of them are from Siberia. A lot of them from Siberia. Some from Mongolia. Exact, etc., etc. Some humans have it when they've been hairs have been sampled in crime cases, for example. They've been confused with animal hair because they're so thick at the base. But it just turns out this particular cultural group is isolated into just a few different areas on Earth, you know, and it took them 30 years to figure that one out, you know. So I think what you're doing is really cool, Jeff. I think you're on the right track.
Well, you know, to tell you if I was going to be honest about it, I'm going to tell you that I don't put a lot of stock into hair thickness and the physical properties where they differ. And there's a reason why. I believe that if the creature exists in all these different geographical areas, probably one of the most physical features that will differ in those areas is the hair. And I know everybody says, well, if it's a Bigfoot hair, it will have a lack of medulla, it'll be very limp, this and that. Okay, well, that's what I recognize in my area in northern Minnesota, okay? But I can tell you this, in my area, they have to be able to exist to where they do carry that big body weight. Because winters are 30 degrees below zero, the wind will blow 30, 40 mile an hour. And it makes sense that hair is light and limp and no structural integrity to it. And it's 8 to 10 inches long, okay? Because it would need a lot of follicles per square inch of really long, fine hair to work in an insulating property, okay? Whereas a skunk ape in Florida or a Bigfoot in Louisiana, I would think that hair would be shorter, it would be more coarse, and there would be less follicles per square inch because it doesn't have to work in an insulating property. It has to work in for a ventilating purpose. It doesn't need to stay warm and need all that long, thin, fine hair. It needs short, coarse hair so it can sweat and its body heat will come out.
That's mind blowing.
It doesn't need to carry 1,200 pounds in it.
That's really good. Male. By the way, I hope all you guys are listening here. What Jeff is saying is absolutely mind blowing stuff here.
It doesn't need to grow 10 foot tall and weigh 1,200 pounds to live in Florida. Okay, it needs to be that big in Canada because when you look at, and this is my opinion, okay, if you look at the apex predators that it coexists with, okay, in Canada, northern Minnesota, in these areas that I work in, their biggest threat is like a wolf pack. A wolf pack, if you get 10 to 15 wolves after one, you would need not just a group of 1 or 2 or 3 to defend yourself. You'd need a clan of 5 to 10 of them to really adequately defend themselves. And that's why in my theories, the clans are usually larger size the further north you go because they need to be as a defensive mechanism against their threats.
I'm gonna ask you
Florida, maybe it's not the same.
I'm gonna ask you one last question, and then I'm gonna let everyone else speak, right? During all of this discussion, which has been fascinating, Jeff, I must find out more about you. But apart from that, in all this discussion, which has been fascinating, you've been slightly ambivalent as to your belief. So, are they there?
Well, there's
Are
a
they
reason.
not?
When you learn about, I had an encounter on a small island in northern Manitoba with three other people. There's two other people with me. There's three of us there. And I am, according to Doug Hychek, my research partner, who's pretty well known in this community. He's heard of over 1,000 encounters from different people. When I first shared my encounter with him, and I've shared it on Joe, who just popped on, I've shared it on his channel. You can go to Joe's channel and see me share it. It's about an hour long. It wasn't where I just watched one walk across the road in 10 seconds and poof, it was gone. I found myself 15 feet away from one, and it threw a log at me and injured me. And the two people I was with and myself, we were coming undone in this experience as it stood in front of us. So I will say this: is it Niall? Is that how you say your name, Niall?
No, Niall.
Niall. Had I never had that experience, I don't know that I would be so determined in my research. When I see hoaxes and the community disruptive and things like that happen, it would be so easy to say, fuck this and walk away. It really would be.
Brilliant.
But because I stood in front of one like this, I can't do that.
I knew there was
I've
a
lost
reason.
the ability to do that. And the
Okay.
reason why I work so hard in this research to try to get this thing to where we can move the science forward is I'm not taking anything away from an experience of interaction. The six of us could go out in the woods tonight and knock on a tree and maybe get a knock back, or call out and get one to call back. That would be a great experience, right? And I admit we'd be telling stories about it. We'd be on here talking about it.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we didn't advance the science 1 inch when we had that interaction. We didn't advance it 1 inch. It was a great experience, but we didn't come any closer to proving this thing real. So my research wasn't to invoke a blurry picture or audio of one howling out. I really wanted to do something that was going to advance this science and get us a little bit closer to figuring this out.
Well, I'm 100% behind you, Jeff, and I think out of everyone, Derek, you can jump in if you have a few comments on this. We were talking about the dimensional aspect of this, which is something that I wouldn't discard in the slightest either.
I'm happy to jump in. I have one point not to do with dimensional, but from Jeff's earlier comments about balls and the time, like as I say, I was 12 years in the military, and whenever we had people come in and they'd been stressed out from having, a hard day or a hard patrol or whatever, and the PTAs, the physical trainer instructors they would throw out the balls. It was literally a bag of balls. There was rugby balls, basketballs, softballs, the whole lot, and the guys would take half an hour and sort of de-stress by playing games. But as for the dimensional thing, no, I think there's some validity to that. That it would, I'm a guy sitting here in Limavady in Northern Ireland. Like, I can't explain anything like that. I'm not a professor. I'm not. But whenever you take the sum total of worldwide experience, these strange experiences, it has to be considered that, the cloak between dimensions might be fairly close, and something might be coming out and popping back in again. As I say, that's just, my personal opinion.
No, it's a good.
I have no science. I'm not anything.
It's a good point, Derek. And the last thing I'll say.
But you see, now, it's a very important thing. If you look at our background from Ireland, if you look at the historical, not particularly historical, but the mythology of Ireland, the only way you can explain a lot of those stories is interdimensional. Somebody slipping in from the other side.
Well, Derek, and I'll say this: I believe that there are phenomena in the paranormal world outside of Bigfoot that are real. I believe orbs. There's a phenomena there. Okay. I believe portals. I believe UFOs, all these. I believe that there's enough evidence that I can't prove any of them not to be real, right? From a research aspect, I try to study what I'm trying to study as a flesh and blood creature.
Mhm.
But what I say is until I see a Bigfoot fart out an orb, I don't know that the two are related to each other or how they are. Okay. But
No,
I
don't,
believe
don't
they're
get me
both
wrong, Jeff.
but I
I'm
believe
fairly
they're
sure.
both real. But I believe they're both real.
I'm
And so
fairly
what
sure
what
that the Bigfoot exists in the forests of America. You know, because as I say, it's a vast place and all that. Like, if you want to take it down, as Niall will say, we live on a small island. But whenever I went to school, and now you're going back a long way because I'm pushing 50, but beside the school, there was a, couple of bungalows. And the rumor ran around that there was somebody seen something in this bungalow, and they described it as a small animal on four legs, but it glowed. Right, and that sounds like a lot of nonsense, like somebody took a bit of drugs or whatever. But the council boarded up the house, and that house sat empty for a year.
Mhm.
So you know what I mean? Something happened.
Well,
I'm not saying it was a paranormal activity or whatever, but something strange went on.
Yeah, look, and like I say, ghosts, negative spirits, positive spirits. I believe they're all likely. There's a realistic nature to all these phenomena. I'm just saying how those cross or how they're together. People say I saw Bigfoot and it had orbs around. Well, I'm not going to say there isn't a connection there. I'm going to say in my research I can't prove that there's a connection. I don't know how there. I would. So I have to approach it as a flesh and blood creature. However,
yes, you do.
I will tell you this. When I hear a subject move from point A to point B in front of me, and it covers 30, 40 yards in deadfall timber and, spruce scrubs, things like that, a lot of people will want to say that it transported from A to B because it didn't make any sound. It was like it was there and then it was there, right? I'm a believer of this. If any of us survived in the woods, in the vast wilderness, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for decades, and your survivability depended on how elusive you could be in the decisions you made to move or not move. I think that even if you were 10 foot tall and 1,200 pounds, you'd get really freaking good from moving A to B without making noise.
Yeah, but there's another way to look at that.
Supernatural explanation.
Well,
they're just that good at it.
There's another way to look at that, Jeff. And you've just given a perfect example. You had a first-hand experience of one of these creatures going straight across your path. Why then? Why did it expose itself blatantly?
Yeah, I cover that in my encounter story because it was on a little island.
Just let me finish.
Okay.
And this creature is so elusive and so shy that we can't even catch a glimpse of it, and yet it just walks across the road and throws a log at you. You know, that makes no sense.
Because
it makes
it was a threat.
No,
well, yeah. In my case, it was on a little island. So when I walked up a game trail, it had to get me off that island. It had
he wouldn't just confront you in that way. The creature is always being perceived as elusive and hidden, and shy. So it wouldn't just come up with a log and throw something at you.
Well, first of all, you don't understand the parameters of what this encounter entailed. Okay, this is a lake, a large lake that had a bunch of islands on it, and it was completely surrounded by wilderness, and it's about 50 miles from the nearest road. Okay, other than the one logging road we took in. On this little island, when we were watching moose and bear and deer swim from island to island, whatever makes them do that, if on the main shoreline, if a deer's being trailed by wolves, it may jump in the water and start swimming and it ends up on an island, okay? And while we were there fishing for 3 days, we watched every day a deer swim from the mainland to an island or from an island to an island. And back then I didn't really research Bigfoot. But when we were on an island, because my friend had to take a leak, and we're standing there on the shore of this little island, 25 acres. It's not big, but it's heavily wooded. I saw this huge game trail and walked up it. And when I did, I heard a boom, like a breaking sound where a tree broke. And it was 30, 40 yards off the game trail I'm on. So I'm stopping, watching the woods, thinking a black bear is there. I was confident that there was a black bear there. And I was watching it. I grew up the son of a hunting and fishing guide. I know you don't just turn around and retreat from a bear. You're going to invoke a chase scenario. I needed to identify where this bear was. And I stood there for 2 minutes staring into the woods and looking back downhill the trail at the beach that I walked up from. And I could not figure out where this bear was, didn't hear another sound, turned and looked up the trail, and this thing standing 15 feet in front of me. And it's not throwing a log at me. It's holding a log in its hands. And it stood there, and I looked at its thighs, and they were the size of a frickin' 5-gallon bucket, like 2 buckets next to each other. That's how big its thighs were. And I look at the birch log it's holding, and I look at its stomach, and I look at its chest, and as my eyes are going up its body, this thing had no hourglass shape. Same, just massively thick all the way up. And this thing's about 10 foot tall. And when I look at it in the eyes, and I'm not running away, because at first I thought there's a bear standing right in front of me. And as I'm looking up this thing, I realize it's not a bear and it's not a human. And as soon as I look at its eyes, it took that log and it just shucked it forward and hit me and launched me down that trail. And in my mind, that thing could have taken that log and hit me in the head when I look at it in retrospect and killed me at any moment. But it didn't. It has this little island it's hunting from. If a deer was to swim to that island, it can see it swimming to that island. And when that deer walks up on the shoreline and it's exhausted from swimming, it just steps out and kills it.
Where does these creatures live?
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but we need to give Turkey Joe the chance to speak because he's been sitting here for 20 minutes.
The only reason why I wanted to cover that is because you're asking, you're assuming that it would do this. And first of all, that's a big mistake. Never assume that it will do anything. It will do whatever it's comfortable with. There is no, you can't predict how it's going to react when we don't even want to admit that it's real, So
good point.
I'm just saying you got to be careful about how you can't say, well, it wouldn't do that. I've heard accounts that I say that doesn't sound like it was something it would do based on what I know about it. And I don't have proof that it wouldn't do that. So I got to be very careful.
Point taken. Turkey Joe, do you want to add anything to this? Or Mogulon, do you want to say anything? Or anybody?
No, I'm just listening. I'll let Joe, if Joe, you got something to say, chime in.
Oh, okay. People take a breath once in a while. But
well, there's two Irishmen here, so
yeah. Well, this is the thing.
Two Irishmen, you don't have much chance.
I can't believe that Mogs is still on, which was fabulous. And because I just did a show tonight, was amazing. I was blindsided. But Mogs, when I saw you were on, I was like, holy shit, Mogs is on. Happy Thanksgiving, Mogs. And for a second, man, I thought for a second there that you got abducted by a Bigfoot because you disappeared and you were gone. Good to see you, Vault Keeper, even though I can't see you, but nice to see you.
I just don't have a webcam.
Oh, that's okay. Niall, you said, nice to meet you. Derek, I've seen you on Mogs' show before. And dude, I gotta tell you,
crazy drug Irishman. Yeah,
I love your accent, man. I love it to death, dude. Jeff, happy Thanksgiving. And
hey, brother.
Jeff is very passionate, man, about his research. So you gotta understand, it's hard. Jeff gets going, man, and it's like, dude, but he's a wealth of information. But I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And look, there's this kid walks in on his parents, and they're having sex, man. And his dad is
Oh, that happened to me.
just giving mom the business, man, just going to town. And the kid is like so shocked, man. He's like, oh my God, what the hell? And dad just starts laughing. The kid runs out, and everything. And mama's like, oh my God, maybe you should go see if he's okay. And the dad's like laughing about it, because the kid caught him. And he walks out of the room and he goes down the hall and he walks in another door and he opens up the door and there's a kid, man. He's on top of grandma. And he just fucking giving her the business, dude, just going to town. And the dad goes, what the hell? And the kid looks at him and he goes, yeah, it's not so funny when it's your mom, is it? So I gotta say, man, you guys, happy Thanksgiving, man.
Thanks, Joe.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Hey, look,
Joe.
Thanksgiving.
Bigfoot is real, okay?
Yeah.
Bigfoot is real.
Well,
I know it. You guys have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks.
All right, buddies.
Mr. Jeff, on something you were saying earlier about the different, about the DNA, the difference in the DNA and stuff. Would that account for, like, even here in Mississippi? I've seen some that they don't all quite look the same. Would that not be right with that train of thought?
Well, if I was to answer that, I want you to understand, I as a researcher, I don't speak from factual basis. I speak on my opinion. Okay. So if you ask me, there's so many people in this community that would say, well, I'm glad you asked that because this is the way it is. And that nobody knows the way it is. Okay. Exactly. I can tell you this though. That if you look at a Navajo Indian male and you look at me with according to ancestry.com, I'm Scandinavian and Welsh. Okay. And if you look at somebody who is here because they were Asian and they took a job in North Carolina, and you put us all three together and do DNA samples on us, we're all going to be humans. And there's going to be elements that are, very minutely different in the way our genomic makeup is. But we're going to look distinctly different. Okay. And so, I guess when you, even from the same area, you could say, well, one Bigfoot, if you had great photographic evidence of true specimens from the same geographical area, they may not appear identical. It just doesn't. Humans have distinctly different features. Exactly. Certainly, you can assume that they would too. Okay. But what I look at is these things that control how overall you would appear if you didn't have stores to buy clothes from. If we all lived outside and it was extremely cold, over hundreds and hundreds of years of specimens in that area, they would adapt to that temperate climate or that cold climate. The same as ones in Arizona, on the Mogollon Rim in Arizona, would adapt to that hot climate, probably. Okay, so that's where I kind of have to assume. I have to be careful in my assumptions, but I have to assume that northern climate specimens, let's say north of the Mason-Dixon line, Ohio, Minnesota, Washington State, all through Canada, those types of areas, Montana, Idaho, probably more hair follicles per square inch, probably real fine limp hair, and probably fairly long hair. Versus if you carried what I just said there about hair and you put it on a specimen in Florida, he'd probably die of heat stroke in a week.
Yep.
Because he's trying to insulate his body for that climate. Whereas one down south in these hot climates, 120 degrees a day, they have to have less follicles per square inch, shorter hair, probably coarser, so it will stand up from the dermal surface a little bit before it mats down. And you start seeing that when you see, even on Carrie and Daniela's site, where Daniela and what's his name, who draws the pictures of people who describe their accounts.
Larry Beth.
If he's drawing one that somebody has seen, an eyewitness account down south, typically shorter hair, kind of spikier hair, very short hair around the shoulders. And yet one's up, the one that I saw on an island in Manitoba had, I joke about it, but it's like hair like Keith Urban. I mean, it kind of parted and laid down. It was long hair that laid down. It flowed down its body. It wasn't short and spiky and coarse looking. So, you know, I'm just I just look at those different accounts, and then I look at the different climates, and I look at different animals. If you were to trap a bear in North Carolina and look at how many follicles per square inch of hair it has, and you trap a bear in northern Canada and look at how many follicles per square inch there is, distinct differences.
Yeah, that's what
So I
I'm talking
start
about.
looking at how that exists in different animals, and it's probably natural to assume that a Sasquatch that lives where it's 3 foot of snow and 30 below zero for 4 months, 5 months a year, probably carries a different coat than one that lives in Florida. I mean, it would just make sense.
Yeah, that's what see. That's what to me, what scientists have told me. You want to look for diversity in the species. That's one of the things, telltale signs that it is a true species is diversity.
Yeah. Well, and that's the reason why deer are that much bigger up in the northern United States versus down south. They're the same critter. They eat roughly the same food, but because one has to carry so much more fat and body weight to exist over a hard winter, whereas the other one has a forage base that is prevalent year round. It's not covered in snow and ice, right? It can exist in a smaller body mass and not have to carry it through dormant parts of a year. And so that's really what made deer evolve into being bigger in one area and smaller than the other, was the climate and their forage, right? And so that's a 35% different body mass between an adult Alabama 5.5-year-old buck and a 5.5-year-old whitetail buck in North Dakota.
Yep.
So if that's the case, that should exist in different species, and it does. There are examples in different species where that's the case. So when we're talking about an animal that we haven't proven in science, it doesn't matter if I've seen one and believe it, and maybe Neil hasn't and is not sure. It just, we look at principles that science has showed us and say it's likely that a Sasquatch doesn't need to be 10 foot tall and 1,200 pounds in Florida as an adult male to exist. It doesn't. It'd be carrying an excess amount of mass that it doesn't need for warmth. It doesn't need to get through dry forage periods, things like that. So, you know, when I hear an account, somebody says I was in Texas and saw one that was 10 foot tall, right away my feelers go up and say, well, that doesn't really make sense. Why would it need to be 1,200 pounds in
Jeff,
Texas, right?
Jeff, I just want to call you out on something, right? You're right. It is wrong for anybody to make assumptions.
Yeah.
You called me out earlier on about making assumptions, why Bigfoot would walk out in the middle of the road and throw a log at you. But there's one thing that you're missing in all of these wonderful scenarios about how these different Sasquatch creatures can exist in different climates. What is the origin? What is the origin of these creatures? There is no record in the fossils. There's no fossil record. In fact, there isn't even a 1 week old feces record. There's nothing. It's almost like these are like mythical creatures that just pop in and pop out. But I have to call you out on your scientific line of inquiry is very impressive, but it gives no credence at all to the origin of these creatures. It doesn't even begin to examine it. There would be that's why I find it very hard to swallow all of this stuff.
How do you?
But
go ahead.
I would look at science and say science. Most scientists who work in anthropology will tell you that they believe less than 10% of fossils that represent what has existed on Earth has even been uncovered. I mean, most of them operate that there's more unknown than there is known, even in the fossils that we've uncovered. So I can't, and I'm not saying that proves it one way or another. I'm just saying I have to keep that in mind. The other thing is that when it comes to the whole, do they find this or have they found that? What speaks to its physical proof of existence so far? You're right. I mean, this thing has been elusive. I don't know. People say, why don't they find a body? Why don't they find bones? You know, and then your normal argument is, well, they rarely find bear bones. You rarely find a bear skeleton. I don't know what the answer is there. I've got theories into it, but I don't speak to those theories often because the theories aren't science, right?
Sure.
I have to be respectful to that.
Yeah.
But when I say it doesn't make sense for one to be this big in Florida and why it should probably be that big in the northern climate, I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they aren't big in Florida and they're always big up north. I can't say that either. I'm just saying it makes sense when you look at science in these different areas, right?
It's also necessary to make sure to first prove it exists before you can figure out where it came from.
Yeah, and without us acknowledging, and I won't acknowledge that it is or isn't capable of a supernatural ability, right? So, when it comes to origin, if you're going to study it from a flesh and blood, you're going to say, well, it likely, like a lot of animals, migrated through the land strait from the Alaska Peninsula and moved downward, right? But even if they did that, they would have all came over probably looking fairly the same. And then depending on where they establish themselves over hundreds and hundreds of years, they adapt to wherever they've found them, place themselves. But that would be my theory. Again, nothing anybody could ever prove.
Well, one of the things I was going to say just a minute ago, there's been a lot of skeptics, like I said, tried to disprove the Bigfoot and everything. One of the things that I hit them with is this. All right, you want to try to disprove it. Okay. How do you explain all the indigenous people that were here, all the Indians that were here way back before any colonial people came, that there's rock paintings, there's stories that have been passed down in the years that were miles and miles apart that never had any contact with each other, that have stories, depictions, and everything else of the same thing.
That's a great point, Walt, but it goes even further than that. I mean, and this is one of my reasons why I say it takes more effort to deny its possibility than it is to say it could be possible. And that's the only reason why I say that is globally, over 10,000 years, cave drawings, through stories and lore and, stuff people have wrote down and kept track, especially in Native American history, all this stuff. We're talking globally. We're talking before the internet, before cell phones, anything. The idea that one dude sat around a campfire somewhere on this earth and created such a freaking crazy story, and globally it got drawn on cave walls and in lore throughout generations of Native Americans all over the world, or all over the country, and tribes all over the world. It just does not make sense that could have globally spread that.
That makes perfect sense to me, Jeff.
One guy could not have started that crazy story, and it took off to that.
Not one guy, but you have to realize that in those days, everything was extremely frightening and unusual.
And it doesn't speak, and all that speaks to is that at one point they were all aware of them. That doesn't mean even one of them exists still. I mean, to a non-believer, right? I mean, there's drawings of stuff on caves that are extinct and nobody sees them anymore.
Yeah, the fact that there was people who drew stuff in caves in northern France, 30,000 years ago, and you see these huge animals and these stick figures coming down with spears, and everything is very dramatic and very frightening. I mean, that was their world, you know. Humans were living side by side, by taken down by every kind of predator you can imagine. They were trying to form communities. They were trying to slowly evolve. They were trying to communicate with each other. They were trying to, sometimes, they would, maybe they thought these beings were entities that were vastly superior to them, so they had to, paint them in some way, and so it was a completely different scenario. I mean, if you look at it from an anthropological point of view, it makes perfect sense. If you're put back there in that situation where there's goddamn animals coming out of every tree and every plane, something wanting to kill you, eat you, and you're hungry, and you need to feed your family, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know how to kill, and you're scared and you're frightened and you can't express it, so all of these things are pretty logical when you think about the record of humanity on this planet. When it comes to Bigfoot has there is, I know that the Sasquatch people always talk about this missing link era between the Neanderthals and the hominoids, but they did intersect, and there's proof of that. That they did intersect for a short period of time, and humans basically killed out the Neanderthal race. Now, could there have been an offspring that could have, absolutely. I mean, nature is extremely inventive in how it reproduces itself. But to keep itself hidden in small numbers on one continent for thousands of years.
But it's not one kind.
Primarily one continent. For thousands of years.
There's an awful lot of accounts, and
show up now and again, and freak people out, and throw things at them, and disappear again. It doesn't logically. It doesn't make any sense, and with no fossil record, with no, the stuff that you're doing, Jeff, is brilliant. I hope you get those DNA samples back, and I hope they will prove that this is a species that is related to us, or not related to us, or indigenous in some way. Right? But until that day comes,
I get that, and you know what? Here's the cool thing: every person has their own threshold of proof that it will take for them to either believe or not believe. I totally get that. And here's the great thing, and I've learned this sharing my encounter with other people, is that burden for you to get to where you need to be to believe, that isn't my burden to bear. That's your journey. And
absolutely.
You'll run into that threshold, or you won't. But there's very little I'm going to do to get you there. Okay. I acknowledge that. And I also acknowledge the fact that because I had an encounter, it's easier for me to speak on these things from I don't get why you don't get it. I try to always be careful to never assume that, right? I get why people do. If I didn't have an encounter, I'd be sitting right next to you saying, dudes, there's not enough out there that exists in physical, concrete, resolute proof to push me over the threshold. I would have a hard time with it. I get that. But when I look at it in retrospect, and I look at 10,000 documented encounters, or whatever that number is, and the sources of them, right? And I say this all the time, even with 1,000 stories on Sasquatch Chronicles, I'm not naive enough to believe 1,000 of them are true. Half of them are probably bullshit that people made up, right? For whatever motive, they made them up. I get it. But when you're left with ones that you look at, law enforcement, military members, fire, these guys that work these fire lines out remotely, these rangers and stuff that operate where they're spending 12 hours a day in this wilderness. And you start hearing these guys come forward with these encounters. I start thinking, there's a lot to lose here. That risk versus reward to come out and share what they saw, that doesn't make sense for it not to be true. So when I factor that in with the whole global depiction of a species or that seems to be similar in what they describe over thousands of years, today I could start a rumor of something I saw walk by a campfire when I described it, looks nothing like anything that's known. But because of the internet, I could turn that into 10,000 people describing the same thing all over the world. That's what the internet's brought us to. But that ability to communicate that way didn't exist for thousands of years, and yet it happened. And when I start taking the encounters, the credibility of these people that are bringing forth many of these encounters, some of the things that are being witnessed every day, I look at the global documentation of a supposed species, and then I start looking at the calories I'm going to expend to deny that it exists versus opening my mind up and saying, boy, this thing could be that elusive and exist. I would work way more harder to stand in the deniability camp. I really do believe that. And I'm not saying that's somebody who had an experience. I'm saying that I get where you could be a skeptic and say, I haven't seen enough yet. I'm not at that threshold. Totally respect that. And I can't assume the liability to get you there. But these people that carry this burden, the 10,000 encounters that are documented throughout history, you're talking about people who made a choice to tell somebody about it. They looked at the risk versus reward and said, I'm going to go ahead and share my encounter. What about the hundreds of thousands of people that probably looked at this and said, I'm never going to tell
them? And you're including military personnel, you're including police officers with very, very, what is their motive for putting a report in like this? For me, Sasquatch is very similar to ufology. It's you have the same kind of thing. All these reports, no real evidence, blurry videos, mainstream media get sticking their nose in now and again. Nothing really to sciences, and academia is taking a back seat to most of it. You get a few academics now and again. I think the latest guy was Avi Leoba, Israeli astrophysicist who decided to write about life outside this planet and the possibility of aliens, etc., etc. For the most part, Bigfoot is kind of lumped in with ufology, right? So it's the same kind of stuff. It's fringe stuff. It's fringe. And this kind of brings us full circle back to a couple of hours ago when I started. I still don't understand the division within, and it's the same in ufology. The really kind of the violent division that there is in the Bigfoot community. Is it like my Bigfoot is bigger than your Bigfoot? It's very bizarre.
But, Mr.
I
Jeff,
spoke about that a week ago on a different show, and the reason why I believe that is because, like you said, it exists in different communities. It exists in communities outside the paranormal world. It exists in political nonprofit movements. It exists in both sides, the pro-choice and pro-life movements, and whatnot. I mean, all these different people who, instead of working together and focusing on the 90% we agree on to advance the science, we take the 10% where we don't agree and we poison each other with it.
Yep.
Why?
Why does it happen in any arena? I'll tell you one reason why. There's a lot of type A personalities, myself included, that are involved in if you look at what does it take to drive yourself to research and go out in the woods and do this kind of stuff and pursue something to try to prove a theory that you hold or a belief that you hold. It takes a very strong-minded person to actually carry through with that want and drive to do it. And typically, a lot of those people are type A personalities. And quite honestly, we could sit here and have a beer and sit next to each other at the bar, Neil, with Vault and Mogs, and we can agree on a lot of stuff. But as soon as we find something we don't agree on, that turns into some big passionate blowout.
Well,
And that's just the way it is. That's
you-
human nature, unfortunately.
It's
Instead of focusing on the stuff we share in belief and saying, let's forget about the stuff let's agree to disagree on some things, and let's move the science forward together on the 90% we agree on, our community wouldn't have a lot of subject matter to cover on a lot of these channels, because without that passionate difference, if we all just talked about the same things that we were, plus also we'd find ourselves all working in the same box. And I don't believe this mystery gets solved with everybody working in the same box.
Well, I just want to say before it goes any
That's a
further,
good answer. That's a good answer.
Mr. Mongolian, Mr. Jeff, Mr. Nile, thank y'all for letting me come in and talk with y'all and butt heads, and I appreciate it, Mr. Mongolian. It looks like you about to fall asleep.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
Long night.
I appreciate it too, Mogs, and I apologize for this thing dragging on and on. Hopefully the people that are in chat have found it interesting, and I believe that Mogs probably let it go this long because he felt that it was the conversation was interesting enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go now myself because it's actually morning here.
I want to talk to Mr. Jeff later and Mr. Mowgli, because I have a project I'm involved with where we're actually putting cameras out that are remote, that you can actually log into anytime you want and view them.
Yeah, I'll stick around backstage and swap our contact info with you, Vault. It's only because my research partner, Doug Hychek, has been doing that for several months. He's got 9 live remote cameras that they're going to be bringing public, but probably some of the trial and error stuff that he and Justin have ran into throughout that you might find useful.
Anytime, because it's been pulling my hair out what little I got left.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let you go, but Jeff, I'd be curious to speak to you again. I'm pretty much an open book. I don't use a pseudonym or anything like that. My name is Niall Parkinson.
My name's Jeff Harding. You can find me on Facebook. I don't.
So my nickname, and I got that years ago, was Vault Keeper. My real name is Jay Tucker. I've been around for a long freaking time. I've met Mr. Dallas, talked to him. Now the old guys are where the secrecy stuff come from, because I've known Mr. Dallas for probably 10 years and I still never got to go to his main research area. That was something that they used to hold dear to their heart. That was their research area and their stuff. So, but like I said, I don't know if it just leaned it over. And like he said, there's a lot of A personalities in this industry. And
now you've actually blown my mind. Not only have you introduced aspects of anthropology and research and scientific inquiry, but you've also introduced psychology and psychiatry into this debate, which is the first time I've ever heard any Sasquatch or Bigfoot aficionado or person who studies this introduce. Is that 10% of people are just toxic, and they'll try and screw it up for the other 90%, which is basically what it comes down to.
First thing you have to learn, the true researchers like Mr. Jeff and stuff, anybody that tells you they're a Bigfoot expert, run from them.
Yeah.
By the way, Jeff, I'm going to leave you now, but I found you on Facebook, so send your friend request. All right.
Great. I appreciate it.
I think it was a few years.
And respectfully, I'm glad we were able to have this conversation because, like I say, I get why people are skeptics. I don't get frustrated by skeptics because I'm telling you right now, like I say, had I not stood in front of one, I'd be sitting in the chair right next to you going, show me the money, guys.
I think the main problem with me is I have a very inquisitive mind. I read an awful lot. I've educated myself throughout my life to be a logical thinker in a lot of different respects. These days, there's so many channels that you go onto, especially with the paranormal and the ufology and Sasquatch and Bigfoot. And I saw this running across the garden, and here's a picture of this thing, and it was jumping over the hedge, and it jumped into my bedroom, and it did this, and oh my God, it's just so goddamn ridiculous that you actually end up just something is going on, but with all the bullshit that you're fed, you kind of lose faith in it, So your discussion tonight was actually very, very interesting to me and very profound. So I would be back on this channel, and thank you, Mogollon, for being so patient.
And Niall, I don't hide behind a moniker or anything like my name. It's just my name's Russell. Everybody knows that. When I started the channel, Mogi on Monster was what I put out there because I didn't want to put my name out there. But that was years ago, and it's stuck. So,
but I think this conversation tonight was very much a game changer. It's pretty much a game changer. So,
well, I'm glad you did that, man.
I enjoyed it. No end. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it.
Good night. Good night to you.
Take care. I don't know what happened to Jeff, but yeah. If he's still backstage, there he is. Hold on. Nope, he's not there. No. Dude, I want to thank you for coming on as well. I haven't really caught much of your stuff. I know you're tied up. I've seen you around like on Sean G's channel, and
yes, sir.
I know you're tied up somehow with DW, Dark Waters, and those guys. Yeah, man, I'm glad you popped on. It was great to see you.
Well, like I said, Barry was telling me about it. I got to meet Barry the other night, and matter of fact, the night before the day after I first met Barry, me and my son went out to a property I just bought. I bought a little over. The way the property deed reads, it's 110 plus or minus acres because it's undeveloped.
Okay.
And the reason why I bought this, nobody else wanted it. I did a drive-by and a little short that I did where you can see there's houses on each end of this road, just about 5 miles long, and there's no houses in between there, right where I bought this land. And we were out there. Actually, I found tracks. I found one track I ain't very fond of finding. It looks like that damn dog man through whatever. But anyway, we were out there looking for a place to put one of these cameras. And I found an area where I've not seen this before. It's a stand of volunteer grow pines that are probably 30 foot tall. And it looks like something stood right in the middle of a bunch of them and just shoved every one of them over that it could reach.
Huh.
And then there's trees that were pulled over, and then the other trees were placed on top of it. And like I said, I was like, this is a good area. Well, we left and was going back to the truck, and we were about 200 yards away from it. And all of a sudden, that noise I play for you just started just out of nowhere. It didn't just start from a low rumble or what. It just started. And I turned and looked at my son. And I was like, is that, he's shaking his head because he knows that. I was like, is that a siren? And I said, now this went on for over a minute, and my stupid butt not thinking I got a phone in my pocket. I can record this. I'm just trying to figure out where is it coming from because it was so loud.
I've heard that sound before in a recording somewhere.
Well, now in that recording's defense, I tried to clean it up some in Audacity, and I did amplify it so I could hear it. So I was trying to hear the undertones, and that's what I've got. So it was put through Audacity, and it's, but I gave it to Flat Rock Booger to tell him to put it through whatever, because when I put it through WavePad, I was looking at the different volumes. Dude, it was going below 28 decibels and then going up above 600 decibels.
Damn.
That's way out of human range.
Yeah.
And that's what was confusing. But like, so we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, like I said, almost a minute went by, and we're trying to figure out where it's coming from because it's so loud, it's hard to pinpoint. And I said, where do you think it's coming from? He points straight back down to where we just came from. I said, that's what I thought. And then I was like, oh shit, I got my phone. I pulled my phone out. I hit record. After I opened it up, I hit record, and we're sitting there recording, and it just quits. It just like you shut it off. Now I know good and well there's no human sign of any kind down in there except for what we just went down there and done. So that was, and nobody goes back there. To tell you how bad this area is, the man that I bought it from didn't want nobody on the property. That the gang warden actually pulled up behind me to figure out why I was there, and I told him I just bought the place. He said, I didn't know it was for sale. I said, well, the family had came to me whenever the man had been put in the hospital or the nursing home, and they were scared the nursing home was fixing to take the property. Because here in Mississippi, if you get put in the nursing home and stay there for a certain length of time, the nursing home can actually seize any assets you have to sell. Well, anyway, that's how I wound up with it. He said, well, he didn't let nobody on here. We even had orders if we catch some of his family members around out here and they were on the place, to write them a ticket for trespassing and usher them off. But that's one of the properties I have that's not too far from where my house is. That's like the house I bought. It's got activity in the backyard now. They come up, scream, holler, do all kind of crazy crap. And I think I figured out something about them I've been trying to figure out for a while. I don't know if y'all have had this experience or not. That's why I've been trying to get up with other on what I call boots on the ground people that go out and research, actually, besides just people that do what I call armchair researching.
Research, yeah.
Well, I've just got into the whole camera and trying to video them and catch stuff like that. That's not what I normally did or was into. And I've changed my whole approach because I actually got tired of everybody. Where's your proof? Where's the video? Why didn't you take a picture? So I changed up what I'm doing to start trying to give people what they want. Hey, look, this is the evidence I got. You try to figure it out. Tell me what it is, what it's not. I don't care what it is. You just tell me.
Sure.
That's the approach I've done that they have done took to it. Well, like I said, I figured out, I think, but every time I think I got something figured out with these damn things, they do something differently and it throws that all out the window.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a camera, like I said, in my backyard, and now it's an IR camera. And for some reason, since I put that camera up, they'll come right to like the edge of where that light will reach out to and stop.
Well, supposedly they can see IR.
Well, see, I've always said that because of the way they go around game cameras and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
they know the boundaries.
I have a 800, I think it's 850 lumen. I mean, not lumen, but whatever it is in IR lights, 850 cm or whatever it is. One of those flashlights that you can make into a spot. Now, you can't see IR with your naked eye. Well, okay. I had a regular flashlight, a stream light. It's like 400 or 500 lumens. I'm out there and I can see one of these things. Well, I hit it with a light and it made its eyes. You can see on the video, you can see its eyes really light up. And so it looks like two tail lights just started shining and it just kind of stood there. Well, I was like, well, maybe I can get it to show it better on the camera with the IR flashlight. So I put that one down. I picked the other one up. As soon as I cut it on, dude, it looked like you threw hot water on him. He just turned his head immediately and jerked and got the hell out of there.
Wow.
I'm wondering if the IR doesn't hurt their eyes because it's in a different wavelength, if it doesn't hurt their eyes some kind of way.
Oh, that's possible.
Like I said, that's the only thing I was thinking about that. So I started blocking the camera off back here in different ways. And sure enough, the area that I would block off where that light couldn't hit, they're coming up closer to the camera. It's like they're curious about it. Cause like I said, it's not hidden. It's out there and it's, you can see the IR, you see a little red dot. So I don't know. Like I said, that's one of the theories I'm trying to work out.
Well, I'm wondering if with the flashlight, the IR flashlight, they thought, they associate it with the camera.
I don't know. I know they know what a weapon is. There's no doubt in my mind they know what a weapon is, because I've went into areas without a weapon. 90% of the time I go armed. And it's not because of the squatches or whatever. It's because of the other crazy people I run into in the woods. Because I've walked up on illegal grows, especially around here. You got illegal meth labs and stuff like that. Those people are not very nice when you walk up on them.
No. Well, man, I don't mean to cut you off, but I am going to cut you off. Listen, Jeff Harding does want your information.
Okay.
Your contact, whatever. You can email me and I can forward it.
Okay.
My email is monstermogion. It's just the name backwards at gmail.com.
Okay. And mine is real easy. It's vaultkeeper2.0 at gmail.com.
2.0. Right on. So yeah, then I'll just forward that to Jeff.
That's no problem. And I appreciate you letting me come on. There's a lot of people I've rubbed sideways in the industry, and I know that's just my personality. I don't mean to. I apologize up front to anybody that usually starts talking to me. I have no filters. If I say something, think something, I say something. I don't mean to be. It's just the way I am.
No, I'm the same way, dude.
Like I said, I did work for the government for an entity called Blackwater International for about 21 years. I've been around the globe, around the world, different places that we wasn't supposed to be, and I still can't say. But anyway, I worked on the border for several years. I was part of the anti-cartel task force, and down in the big thickets where they sent us. And I want to tell you something. There's some stuff down there that don't make any damn sense. But like I said, I appreciate you letting me come on here. And like I said, anytime you want, you're more than welcome to park your shoes over to Vault of Nightmares. I'd love to get you come on there and do a show with me or whatever. But
absolutely.
Appreciate it, man. And I'm gonna let you get off here because, like I said, it looks like you deadbeat tired. And happy Thanksgiving.
It's been a long day.
Look, I done passed out twice from turkey comas. So,
right on. Again, dude, thank you so much. And my door is always open, so you can always pop on anytime.
Well, thank you, man. I'll see y'all later. I'm gonna get out of here.
Take care.
All right.
Figure out how to get you out of there. All right. Well, guys, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. It's been a long night. I hope it wasn't too long for you guys. I will be back Tuesday. I'm sure I'll see some of you guys over the weekend. Although I haven't been watching too much stuff. Just dealing with life. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody that came on tonight. Really good discussion. Everybody gets down on the critic, but you know what? It's a critic that causes, good discussions when you have two different sides. And I think it turned out really well. Another guy got, his eyes opened a little bit more, and maybe you see things, a little bit differently. So thank you guys. Long Island Bigfoot, what's up, man? Good to see you. All right, guys. Y'all have a great night. And if you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button below. If you're new, subscribe. Also, if you guys are up for supporting the channel at all, the PayPal link is in the banner above. And I'll also at some point get it down in the description. If it's not there in the description, you can go back a couple shows. You'll find it in another description because I'm doing everything by my phone right now. So, all right, guys. Have a wonderful night. Peace and God bless.